enough wrist tolerance to like mess around with it.
Yeah.
It comes on everyone's wrist tolerance. If you're not like you take risks, it's not meant for you type of situation.
Oh yeah. No, you won't sleep at night.
Oh yeah. You just put that in whatever index funds and you just
You're now tuned in to the NBA
really get
Deeper Dive.
Out. I do think it's, depending on what your financial
For
status
sure.
and age are, definitely take the risk, I think.
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA Deeper Dive, presented by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. I'm Dave Loughran on Twitter at Laffy_D on all the social medias, but really Twitter's the only one I use for these purposes. Unimportant. Anyway, Adam Scher not with us today. Still feeling a little bit under the weather, but we've got a phenomenal replacement. Rayen Patnaik, I got it now. You know him as Rinpack. Also someone that looks extraordinarily warm today, recording from the comfort of his own home. What's going on, bro?
No, it snowed about 8 to 10 inches. It continues to snow. It's very cold out here, and I just wanted to warm myself up for this show.
Is that sheepskin?
I think so. Yeah, I got it at a hotel in Denver, and I was like, this will come in handy when it's cold outside. So it's definitely very warm.
What's the temperature there?
I think it's like 8 or 9 degrees. I'll tell you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it warmed up here today. It's like 45, but it's just raining all day. So I don't know. I'm ready for this all to be over. Just trying to move south. Take me south, man, where I don't have to deal with this shit anymore.
Yeah, Arizona, San Diego, the two best spots in terms of weather I've been during the winter months. Absolutely surreal.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, we got 6 games to talk about. A lot of injury news. Josh and I did the strategy show this morning. We had a lot that was still in flux. There is still some pending news, but we've gotten a lot of information over the past few hours. So we're kind of in a decent position to talk through all of this right now. Not all of it, but that's why you got Live Before Lock right after us with Greg Ehrenberg, Eric Lindquist. They'll take you all the way up till 7, and then past that for the post-lock show. Stick around if you're not doing anything. Those guys do a great job on that, and it's a whole lot of fun. So let's have some fun here, Rinpack, and dive straight into it. First question, I ask Adam this every single show just so we can build a bit of a foundation here. We've seen a lot of like real stars and scrubs builds lately, and it has nothing to do with COVID protocols at this rate. It's just you're getting a little bit further into the season. guys that are playing a ton of minutes are getting some rest days. Some of them are just getting banged up and missing games. Are we looking at more balanced builds, stars and scrubs? Can we do kind of whatever we want today? What are you thinking out of the gate?
So yeah, I think it's a kind of a mixture of both. There's no like super studs. We don't have the Jokic, the Embiids, the Hardens on the slate. We're dealt with an Anthony Davis on the slate, a cheaper Steph Curry on FanDuel. So yeah, I don't mind a balanced build. We'll see if news is going to break the way to open up value. There's the De'Aaron Fox situation in the one of the later games at night. But I think it's a balanced build type of now just because the opportunity cost of missing out on a guy putting up 70, 75 isn't there. There's no Giannis. There's no Jokic. And the cheaper value, it's we'll touch on a guy like Eubanks that's opened up. It's not as strong to be a super, like your scrubs when you try to get down low, they're usually strong value. No one is exceptionally strong at this moment is how I feel.
All right. Let's make it happen. Minnesota and Detroit. Oh, by the way, happy to have you guys with us. Almost 1,000 watching out of the gate here. So if you haven't done so, hit that thumbs up. Wouldn't mind getting that ratio to at least 20%. We got 77 to 200. Look, if I didn't have to ask, I wouldn't, but got to play the games here. And it does make a difference. Feed the algorithm. You know what I mean? So we got to placate the YouTube overlords or avoid them, however you want to put it. But yeah, hit that thumbs up. Only takes a second. If you forgot, it's cool. But just go ahead, make it happen, and subscribe to the channel if you like this content, you want to see more of it. If not, that's cool too. You don't have to. Boom, straight up over 200. We're in business. Oh, and last thing, if you want to join the channel, get the badges, the custom emojis, and all of that good stuff. It's cool, Christian. That's why I asked. That's all. I know people forget. You want to get the emojis, free super chats each month, and we'll always shout, always priority questions and comments. Always prioritize them, I should say, along with our premium Discord members. Just hit join below if you want to become a member here. See, Jordan's got that nice badge going. Rich C's got it. Bunch of these guys. Orton's neck beard, whole bunch of them. I got one as well. I like it. All right, let's do it. Minnesota and Detroit. This is one where we still do have pending news, Rimpak, and we'll pay close attention to it because if D'Angelo Russell's out, it's definitely going to give a bit of a boost to guys like Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. Have we had an ownership update since we got the Murray news? Yes, we have, I think. Let me just make sure because I want to make sure all of this is, yes. Okay, cool. We do. 10 minutes ago, we got an ownership update. But anyway, do you have any read on Russell playing or not? He's been sidelined a few games now.
Yeah, I have no read right now. I'm just going to, that game being a 7 p.m. Eastern tip-off game, I'll definitely just wait on the news over there. Just to be sure. I have no absolute read on what's happening. It's a lower body injury. And the one thing coaches do indicate, have said publicly in press conferences, these are the dog days of the NBA season. They're just trying to get to the All-Star break. So it's why we've been seeing a lot of these random, more frequent load management rest days of late. But I don't know with Russell's injury. I'm just going to wait on the news. I have no read one way or the other. I just truly think it's a 50-50 decision at this point.
Okay. And yeah, who asked that question? Gabriel. Yeah, that game did get moved to 7. I made this run sheet earlier before that with the game list. So now we have 2 7:00 games. Jordan, go ahead and just throw Miami, San Antonio in after this game on the sidebar to make it a little bit easier so we can go chronologically here. But all right, let's dive into it right now. Ryan, you have Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns could play with or without D'Angelo Russell. If Russell's in, let's start here. What are we doing with the top options from the Timberwolves? And I think both of us would expect Beverly to play, even though he's questionable. He did return last game.
Yeah. So with all of these guys back, I still have interest in this Minnesota team. It's a Detroit matchup, which is very favorable. And there are guys on this. It's a small enough slate where there are multiple guys who can get you 50 fantasy points and guys like Cat and Anthony Edwards. D'Angelo Russell has kind of taken like the third seat in this offense in terms of usage with Anthony Edwards and Cat. I like attacking the Detroit front court with Cat and Cat coming a little lower owned for the upside he has. And especially on FanDuel, the center slate where you just have one, I like going to him just because I think if you just get the raw points with him and you kind of just lock it up right off the bat, I have no issues going to 10-2 Cat. Kind of the more expensive side we've seen Cat of late, but it's a Detroit matchup that really has me going here for this Minnesota team. Don't have any issues. If you fall on some Russell, if he does play, just keep in mind he is coming back from an injury. But Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards, with or without D'Angelo Russell, I'm pretty interested in both of those guys.
Okay. Yeah. And without Russell, we can get into this a little bit here. Edwards this season without Russell has a very solid 31% usage rate. Cat's around 29%. Towns 1.37 DraftKings points per minute without Russell. Edwards at 1.21. So, I mean, you certainly get good production out of these guys in a good matchup. I don't think there's anything about this Detroit team that concerns us, right? So, what are they? 24th in defensive rating. They play at a relatively Detroit's playing at the 11th fastest pace in the league. So all in all, it is a really good spot for them. Hopefully Detroit keeps it competitive at home. Are there any other spots for Minnesota that are worth looking at today? And we can talk about if Russell's out, but I feel like if you're really going to get value here, you would want Russell and Beverly out before you get to like a Jalen Noel again, or any of the guys that we've targeted over the past week.
Yeah, it's tough for me to really have a supreme amount of confidence in any of these guys who are cheap. I was chasing Malik Beasley for a long time. He's just kind of fallen out of like significant rotation run of late. He's a guy who I think off the bench can catch fire, but he's just not grading out to be even a strong value play with his price falling so far. It's tough for me to go to anyone in confidence. Pat Bev, sub 5K on DK. If you land on him, sure, just because the minutes when he does play have been so strong, but he doesn't give you all the greatest upside. He's shown it time here and there throughout the season, but it's Karl-Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards lead the way, and no one really else. I think everyone else is just priced fine / appropriately, while guys who are pricing that same range in later games are just grayed out to be much better.
Man, Josh went on a tirade this morning about all of the people yesterday on Twitter yelling at FanDuel because of like the apparent discrepancy in Isaiah Jackson's ownership. And then they're like, why would you say he's starting if he doesn't start? I know people take bait too easily in chat. It's clear trolling, and I got to hand it to you. It's pretty good. Like, plus, if you can't tell by the 18 laughing emojis, come on now. But Rimpack, there were actually people who thought he didn't start. How hard is it if you're playing DFS? How hard is it to check a box score? Right? Like, I mean, it's really one of the simplest concepts in the world. You go over to whichever app or site of your choice and check the box score, and you would very clearly see that he played 22 seconds.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a tough beat for those who had Jackson in their lineup. It was hilarious. I did see on Twitter people complaining that the ownership percentage in him was dropping by 0.5% by every game, thinking that people had the ability to take him out of his lineup as the games went on.
Amazing.
And that definitely cracked me up. But it's just it just makes that those are the type of people we want to play against night in and night out. So more of those people come in, they use our stuff, we get to take advantage of them. So I was kind of happy to see that. So there is still a little bit of an edge there in NBA DFS. So.
Well, the thing is, they only let the high volume players take him out of their lineup.
You just opened a can of worms in my mentions now.
Man, if these people were around for Ethan Gate back in like 2015, they'd have a conniption. You remember that? Yeah,
that was just about when I started playing right before that summer, and I'd gotten really into it. And then that whole thing happened where it just kind of set a fire. There were so many ads on TV, and then boom, it just was like, bang, it's just gone. It
disappeared, man. Yeah, disappeared. I was going to San Diego for the live final, and it was like right before for the live NFL final, which was in December. This was around like October. And we were worried that it was going to all get shut down. Like with New York trying to shut it down, they were trying to get all of it gone. And fortunately it blew over.
Yeah, no. And I mean, thankfully it didn't shut down. It's been a fun run, but with sports betting coming up, it seems to be it'll be around and steady for the foreseeable future. But you never know. You just got to enjoy it while you can.
Hey, what are we doing with? I was saying to Josh this morning too on the strategy show, Monday through Sunday, every day of the week, 10 a.m. by the way. So be sure to check that out. Cade Cunningham has become like the most volatile player in the league, which is crazy because usually the players that are most, and I'm obviously being hyperbolic, I'm not saying I don't actually know if he is, but usually the guys that are the most volatile provide zero peripherals and are just completely scoring dependent. But man, this guy is insanely hit or miss, especially on a team that gets blown out quite often. What are your thoughts on him today against the Timberwolves?
Yeah, Cade Cunningham has turned into a true tournament player. There's no the certainty with him has been all over the place. Plus, I believe he's dealing with a questionable hip injury. So
Right, that stinger, right, or the
Mhm.
hip pointer.
Yeah, so the one thing that was nice about Cade last game, he did return to the bench and sat down with the team and whatnot. And that is some sort of optimism to have. This injury wasn't too serious. There's some beat reporters who are saying there's some good news from the injury report. So we'll see what ends up happening with Cade Cunningham and his availability to play today. But yeah, he's been all over the map. And in matchup versus Minnesota, if he plays, I'll definitely take my chances. And I don't think they're going to risk their rookie guy if he's not like all systems go type of situation, especially for this Detroit team who's obviously tanking in all sorts of fashion. So I do like going to Cade Cunningham. He's going to be expensive just because I like targeting the upside in tournaments. Now, if you're landing on one lineup with Cade Cunningham, I don't think it's necessary. I think potentially being able to put your lineup position to wait for a guy like Tyrese Halliburton later in the night with potentially no De'Aaron Fox might be a better play. But Cade Cunningham has shown the upside where I'm okay with going to him. Obviously, I won't be playing him if he's not ruled in, but keep an eye. I do think I do embrace the volatility with a guy like Cade for sure.
Bill W., founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, $2 for you. Why didn't Jackson start? LOL. I'm telling you, man, you joke, but people were serious about that. We had some other super chats here. Adam Palmer on FanDuel, what's a good point projection tonight? I have no idea.
I have an idea. 6 games with like the amount of news that can break. It can go anywhere from low 300s to we've seen slates hit 490s on FanDuel.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I can't, and you shouldn't be playing like that to like target points. I like to like eyeball in my head. Can the guy at this price range, if he's like a price 10K above, if you're building one lineup, can he get you 60 fantasy points? Yep. It's not necessarily, you got to build different target scores out in your head if you're building one lineup on your phone to give you that upside. If you think the player can do it on that slate, if he reaches the target score in your head, take your shot on it.
And look, there's other ways to do it, but that's exactly why we have the boom bust tool as well, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
You know, the boom bust probability tool, if you look at this, it gives you optimal lineup percentage. You know, what's the likelihood that they're going to be in the optimal lineup? Their boom percentage, all of that stuff, right? 5x plus 10 fantasy points, the bust probability, ceiling, floor, like that stuff's so important. And I know you use it. Neil loves it. And just talking about like some of the best players on the site, obviously Alex uses it, but Steve Buzzard always talks about, even with sports that he doesn't particularly know as well, that this and the top fighters or the top golfers tool are all just giving you information that is invaluable, especially with DFS being so competitive now.
No, definitely. I'd like to add on that as well. The boom bust probability tool is fantastic because it can be used for the guy who plays one lineup, could be used for the guy who builds 10 lineups, all the way up to 150 lineups because it's that universal of a tool. So it's definitely super valuable to use on a day in and day out basis. And it's like, as the more you use it, the more you get familiar with it and the more better your process will get over a long period of time.
No doubt. And then one more here, and awesemo.com/join, by the way, all these tools built by Awesemo himself, ownership, top stack, boom bust tool, lineup builder, every sport too. And if you want to do a week, a month, a year, whatever, one sport, every sport, whatever your budget, whatever style of play, how serious you are, we got you covered. And if you do have questions just about what's best for you, you can hit me up. My DMs are open over on Twitter as well, mistakenly, but they are open. But yeah, if you want to check those tools out, if you're not ready to do that yet, maybe you got burned by another site and you're just, just not happy. And you say, I'm just not there yet. We got some free content that we rotate every day. Ownership rankings are free today for NBA, player rankings for NHL, all that good stuff. Last one, and then we'll close out this game. Ryan says, Rimpac's favorite play on Yahoo. You got to, and then he says, love Trey Jones. Yes, DeJounte Murray is out today. Any thoughts there on your favorite option?
I'll take a look at Yahoo. Yeah, let me take a quick look over there on Yahoo. It's going to potentially change throughout the night based on news. So don't fall in love with it right off the bat, but let's take a quick look on Yahoo. It's tough for me not to just get the raw points with the guy. My 2 favorite plays on Yahoo, it has to be the Lakers duo and Anthony Davis and Russ Westbrook. Both those guys at their respective price tags, I like quite a bit.
Okay. I love Anthony Davis tonight.
Yeah, me too.
I can't imagine they're not going to let him get his full allotment of minutes. If they don't, that'll suck. Second of a back-to-back, but I still can't imagine, in this position that they're in the Western Conference, that he doesn't get a lot of run. Anything else do you want to hit on for Detroit, like Jeremy Grant, Sadiq Bey? Anyone else here stand out to you at all?
Yeah, if there's no Cade Cunningham on the Pistons, I don't mind getting. We'll see who enters the starting lineup.
I'm sorry. You know what? Go ahead. I was going to hit some news, but we're getting to that game next. My fault. Go ahead.
Yeah, just if there's no Cade Cunningham, I don't expect Killian Hayes to enter the starting lineup if there is no Cade. I do think they like what he's doing, been off the bench. We might see a potential of Frank Jackson or Hamidou Diallo enter the starting lineup. And if one of those guys does start, I will have some interest in one of those guys. But it still can be a pretty risky situation, as they have different guys who can play Cade's position off the bench.
All right. So let's turn the page here. Miami, San Antonio, you got that nice job, Jordan Klein. Everybody, Jordan Klein producing today's show. You got that queued up. We'll get to San Antonio because we just got the starting lineup. That's some pretty significant news. It's going to shake ownership up quite a bit. But we can kick it off with Miami, 6.5-point favorites, 223 total. This line moved a lot today once we got word that Kyle Lowry, who's been out for like two plus weeks with a personal issue, he's going to play. Jimmy Butler and PJ Tucker, are expected to play. Caleb Martin is out, but that's a whole lot less impactful now that these guys are active. What does that do for Miami now that we're getting, Butler's already been back, but we're also getting Kyle Lowry back in the mix?
Yeah, and it certainly eliminates we had quite a bit of run with Tyler Hero there. With Kyle Lowry coming back in the picture, it really doesn't help anyone besides Kyle Lowry. And Kyle Lowry was away for personal reasons. So I'm expecting him to be fine, unless if Spoelstra pulls out, we'll just monitor his conditioning or something if he's returning. So Kyle Lowry at the FanDuel price tag at 6,200 sticks out to me. That's a pretty nice price tag for Kyle Lowry. But I'm a little wary on how they're going to handle those minutes, because he's been gone for, I want to say, 6 games. But it really doesn't help anyone on this Miami team. Less ball handling duty for Jimmy Butler. Bam doesn't get the ball much in the post to facilitate. It's going to really, and also there's another body just soaking up real rotational run. So these guys, if you want to point to me, and yeah, can Jimmy Butler win you a slate? Yeah, that's definitely on the table, but it's less likely now with Kyle Lowry being back in the picture. I don't mind taking shots on a guy like Tyler Hero at 6K on FanDuel off the bench. And that's really honestly about it. Bam Adebayo has double-double upside with the bonus, but no one really sticks out to me. It's a good matchup, so I might need to reconsider this on how to handle the Kyle Lowry situation. But there are just other plays and better value plays across the board later on in the night as well.
I think so too. 9 games he's missed straight.
9 games. Sorry, pardon me there. I thought.
No, yeah. I'm just saying he's been out for a pretty extended period of time. I mean,
that is a long time. So that's a significant period of time. That's almost more than sometimes 3/4. 3/4 of a month of games there. So I think Kyle Lowry, if he's going to get full minutes, I don't expect high 30s minutes because he's been gone for so long from game action, but he did practice. So it's tough to pinpoint those minutes. The minutes range, I think, can be anywhere from mid-20s to low 30s. So that's how I feel how those minutes will go for Kyle Lowry. It's kind of a wide spread there just because he's been gone for so long.
Adam Palmer, another super chat. What up, J-Dog? I assume he's talking to you, Jordan. It's not me. I don't think it's Ryan either. Jordan says hello. You should have gone producer cam there. You did or you didn't? You did. Okay. All right. My man is learning. I love it. You popped up for like 1 second and then disappeared again. All right. You want to talk about San Antonio then, or do you have anything else for Miami? Yeah, this San Antonio side, obviously with the news we just got, changes a lot of things. So yeah, I'm down to talk about San Antonio now. All right. So the news I was talking about, this is significant. And we actually this morning, this is why watch the strategy show, watch the deeper dive, watch the live before lock, watch the process. I know some people have lives in terms of they don't have the time to do all of that, but just discuss the possibilities of who can start here for San Antonio, because Landale is out. And last time Jakob Poeltl was out, he actually played I think it was 25 minutes in that game on the 15th of January. there was the original thought that you get big minutes for Eubanks. You still could, but Thad Young is now getting this start at the 5 with Bam Adebayo on the other side. Look, this is getting interesting now. So there's no Jakob Poeltl. There's no DeJounte Murray. Doug McDermott is another one who has now been ruled out, and he plays, at least decent minutes for his role. I guess let's start at the center position and just talk about how we attack Thaddeus Young now that he's getting a start at the 5.
And you know how I mentioned earlier, a balanced build made a lot of potential sense. With this news, it kind of changed that route here.
Yeah.
Because a guy like Thad Young in the past has shown to be a pretty solid fantasy producer. And it's been interesting. We've been frustrated with how Popovich has used Thad Young as a DFS ecosystem and whatnot, because we like playing Thad Young when he's cheap, and he's very cheap. And I think you can definitely go to Thad Young. I expect the minutes to be anywhere from the mid-20s to high 20s there in San Antonio. It wouldn't shock me if he gets 30 plus in a Miami matchup. I like going to Thad Young. We get to roster him, and I have no issues if you want to get well over the field on a guy like Thad Young. But he's not the only guy I'm willing to go over the field on. I really like going to Derek White there at his price tag across the board on all sites now. Makes a lot of sense to go to Derek White. 6,000 on DK. I love that price tag. 6,400 on FanDuel. Even at $25 on Yahoo. He seems like a pretty rock solid play. Probably my favorite, obviously, Spur in terms of raw points potential. But if you want to follow on a third Spur and a guy like Devin Vassell or Keldon Johnson or Trey Jones, I have no issues. And people ask me, are you okay getting to more than 3 Spurs in a lineup? Sure, it's negatively correlated, but it really depends on which 3 Spurs you land on and what you do with the rest of the salary. And I have no issues if you just want to jam into Spurs tonight. It makes a lot of sense too.
Man, this is it's always so sketchy when a guy who is essentially just fallen out of the rotation is getting a start. Because on one hand, you've seen it where these guys can come in and legitimately play 30 minutes, right? I mean, a perfect example of this, excuse me, was Willie Hernangomez not long ago, right? You hadn't heard from him in a while. And if you did, it was a few minutes late in the game that was no longer competitive. And then he comes in replace of in Jonas Valanciunas' stead, and he's playing 30 plus minutes a game, becomes like the best value play out there, while we all assumed that it wouldn't be him. So I think Thaddeus Young is just a very difficult player to project in terms of minutes today.
It is difficult, and I'm going to trust what the guys behind the scenes end up coming out on their finals minutes projection. I'll have to see if there's been an update to see what they have their minutes projection at. But it's a salary play more than me, and in the sense where there's a decent amount of spend up guys like Curry, Cat, Trey Young. If he plays, we can spend up for to get in more. It's like you feel more confident with those raw points that we get. So it's tough to obviously predict those minutes for Thad Young. We have him right now at 26.4 minutes. So I think I agree with those minutes as well. And if he's going to get those minutes, it's tough not to like playing him in a vast amount of your lineups. I mean, he's the min 3K. What does he have to do to fail you? He's going to have, even if he pulls in Isaiah Jackson, people still cashed with Isaiah Jackson last night just because of how popular he was. And I think Thad Young is going to be the same situation. It's 3K. He has power forward eligibility on FanDuel at $3,500. It's tough not to play Thad Young in a lot of volume.
Is that projection before or after the starting lineup news came out?
I believe 4 minutes ago. So as they updated in real time, yeah.
I mean, 26 minutes makes sense. I think it's reasonable. All I'm saying is it's going to be it's still a big it's a big uncertainty.
Definitely an uncertainty. And when it comes to uncertainty, I'm okay taking a bigger stand when the guy's a little cheaper price, just because if he burns you, the burn doesn't feel as bad.
Yeah, when your minimum salary, even if he plays 20, it's possible that it still definitely doesn't kill you.
And are there other guys around him at the similar price range with that similar upside? As of now, no one has popped up based on any injury news. And it certainly can pop up throughout the night, and you can get an excellent pivot. For example, last night, no two slates are the same, but Marquise Chris was getting a lot of ownership. And then we got the Utah news. Guys like Jared Butler, Trent Forrest came in and outscored him by 15, 20 points, and you jumped a lot of those Marquise Chris lineups. So news is going to break, and you're going to be having to adapt and make those decisions consistently throughout the night.
Well, and just another example that could help us here a little bit is you saw Isaiah Jackson and he played 22 seconds. Terry Taylor ended up having a strong game off the bench, right? He probably would have still played because Brissett was out. He probably still would have played around 20 minutes regardless and could have been a decent value, but ended up being much better. Is there anybody that you say, if you're saying, I'm not trying to get to Thad Young or not get to him, but maybe you're playing one or two lineups and you want to be a little different and his ownership gets really high, who would that be? Like, would we go to Eubanks? Is it possible Eubanks ends up being the better option off the bench and plays big minutes?
It's tough to see. I think all season long, shout out to Eric Lindquist. Last night he told me Eubanks has never played more than 24 minutes in a game this season. I could be wrong there, or he could have been said that it was late at night. So Eubanks is someone, those minutes at 24 minutes, he could produce at a good rate, but it's not that exciting to go just because Thad Young is cheaper and projects much better at this point. But I think I'd be willing to take my chances on. There's also Doug McDermott is missing as well off the bench.
Yep.
I don't mind sprinkling in some Lonnie Walker in your lineups. I think the minutes are going to be there. But Devin Vassell just seems to is going to start and get those minutes. So I think Vassell makes a lot of sense to go there. And guys who I expect to play the most minutes are obviously Derek White and Keldon Johnson. I expect them to get them around mid-30s minutes. I think the NBA projection minutes also think the same way. So it makes a lot of sense just to get those guys in and then picking and choosing your potentially third or fourth spur outside of Thad Young.
Bates Diop is also out.
Yeah. So and that's going to potentially give more minutes to a guy like Josh Primo, and Trey Jones is also starting. So these guys are all cheap price. So definitely Spurs are a priority. And in terms of I like going to Derek White and Thad Young, definitely 1A and 1B for me. And then 2 and 3 have no issues falling on a Devin Vassell or Trey Jones, and then Keldon Johnson. They're in their own pack in their second tier.
So Cade Cunningham just got ruled out along with Josh Jackson. Let's back up just for a second.
Sure.
And don't worry about time here. We had 30 minutes left, but these are games that are, now that we're getting this injury news, are of extreme importance. So I'd rather break these down in depth, and there's a couple of other spots not spend quite as much time on. Just to circle back real quick on Detroit, since this is one of those games that could, despite Detroit not being a good team, be pretty high scoring. I mean, they're in some real trouble now that they're missing him, but how much better of a play does that make guys like Grant and Sadiq Bey? And what do we want to do at the point guard position? Do we go heavy on do we go to Corey Joseph now, who we've seen in relief efforts in the past get a lot of run, or anybody else here at a guard position that stands out to you?
Yeah, Cade Cunningham. I mean, we had him projected for, I believe, 31 minutes going into the slate at this moment. So how are those 31 minutes going to get split up? It could, I expect Hamidou Diallo, Frank Jackson, and Killian Hayes to get majority of those minutes picked up. And I honestly think it might be an even split among those guys. So it's not like one significant guy will get the significant boost right away, just because we've seen this rotation time and time again throughout the season. I would like to see who starts, and I think he might get the bigger piece of the pie if he does start. My indication is it might be Hamidou Diallo, but it would not shock me if it's Frank Jackson. The guy who would shock me is if they do start Killian Hayes, but in case he can pull off anything. But with this situation, I think I don't mind going to Sadiq Bey or Corey Joseph or even Jeremy Grant and just getting a little bit more exposure than you did earlier. Jeremy Grant obviously has the upside to just put up 40 fantasy points. Sadiq Bey, the 3-point upside. Definitely, I'm okay to getting a little bit more of them on the slate. No issues there. But it's going to be interesting to see who ends up getting that start. It could be any one of those guys I mentioned, Frank Jackson, Diallo, Killian Hayes, or one of those three guys. So things can definitely move around there.
Yep. And let's keep an eye out for what the starting lineup looks like as well. With Cunningham off the floor this year, Jeremy Grant's usage is actually lower. I mean, granted, it hasn't played a ton with him off. Grant was out for a while. But, you see Sadiq Bey's usage come up like almost 4%. So there are a couple of people that definitely benefit here. How many minutes are you giving to Kelly Olynyk tonight?
Kelly Olynyk, I think just have to play him at the low 20s. I think around 22 minutes or something like that. Let's see how much we have him projected for. Olynyk at 17. I think it was at 18 before the Cade injury. So we'll see what we come in at. I think low 20s now with no Cade Cunningham makes sense.
And then D'Angelo Russell just got ruled out. Okay. I mean, we already liked Edwards and Cat. I like Edwards quite a bit here. He's a bit volatile, but the guy has a monster ceiling. I just don't think it really opens up a ton of value if Beverly's going to play.
It doesn't open up much with no Russell. Yeah. I think we've been seeing, what's his name? They've been starting Jaden McDaniels for D'Angelo Russell at times there. Just a bigger boost for Cat and Anthony Edwards. And then in tournaments, if you want to sprinkle in some Pat Bev or McDaniels or Vanderbilt, it's okay. Nothing too exciting. It's just that the Spurs guys are just such a priority now. It's tough to look at anyone priced around their range and kind of have confidence in going to them.
Kind of a fun slate though, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of wish the news came out, the Thad news came out later, just because I don't know how much of the field would have reacted to that.
For sure.
But, potentially him getting this news at 5:30, he might be 75% owned. But if we got this at 7:30, or the game starts at 7, well, it came out before then, or 6:45, I do think it'd be half. Well, so many people are using data and projections now to build their lineups. They're going to get to a lot more of them now. So we just got to adjust with that.
Anything else for the Spurs before we move on?
It's Popovich. Whenever Popovich wants to do Popovich, he's going to do his thing. So
this also isn't the confirmed lineup. It's what they're expected to start according to Popovich. So keep that in mind.
Okay. So even more chances to get popped, I guess, but just roll with the grain of salt. It's Greg Popovich. Don't be shocked if someone gets yanked 2 minutes into the game just because he missed a blown screen or something. It's just Popovich doing Popovich things.
All right, let's move on then. Talking about Phoenix and Atlanta. Let me just check to see if we have any additional news rolling out. Beverly's in. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay. Phoenix and Atlanta. Oh, and by the way, almost 500 likes. We only asked once at the top of the show. I mean, much appreciated. Close to, we're at 450. 450, still got almost 30 minutes to go. Doing big things around here. So appreciate you guys. Goody with a super chat. Sorry I'm late, but what about a Keldon Johnson bump? Hold on a second. Bumping Sad and Facile in the lineup alongside Johnson.
He's been Thad Young, I think. Can you see that situation with Thad Young? Bumping Thad and Keldon. I think Keldon autocorrected, or Vassell autocorrected to.
It definitely did. I bet that's like a voice to text thing.
Yeah. Okay. So I just think they're all great plays. Honestly, you can play them alongside everyone. Now, I'd be shocked if we see Thad only play 15 minutes. I do think we at least get low 20 minutes of Thad Young there. Thanks for the super chat, but I've got to think Thad Young plays a little bit more than 15 minutes tonight.
Okay. That was supposed to say Body and Young and Devin Vassell. I'm driving in series. Yeah, I had a feeling. Dude, you can't. That never works. Well, you trying to
drive safe though. Appreciate the super chat though.
Yeah, man. Thanks. And good job being responsible, Goody. Appreciate that. All right. Larry, looking at Lavi's face as he's trying to interpret that super chat. I had a feeling it was something, because Goody doesn't usually troll with super chat. So I had a feeling that it would make sense eventually. We just had to decode it for a second. All right. Let's talk about Phoenix and Atlanta. The Suns have been a team that we've been able to target a lot lately, Rimpak, because you had no Ayton for a while, right? We had Crowder out. We had a lot of guys that were sidelined, but they're all coming back. Ayton and Crowder are expected to play today. Booker's been just on a torrid pace right now, real heater as a scorer. Chris Paul's playing huge minutes lately, and they're going up against the Hawks. I expect Trey Young to play. He did go through shoot around, and that spread went from, I think it was 6.5 earlier in the day to 4 now. So the Suns have seen a little bit come off of that. 226.5 total. What are your thoughts on the Suns up top with Booker and Chris Paul?
Booker and Chris Paul obviously have been playing much better fantasy wise. We've never seen these guys priced around let alone both above 9K in some time in terms of like when they've been on the Suns together. Devin Booker was pissed, I think, that he didn't get named an all-star starter. So he came out guns blazing the other night against the Nets. In terms of this Atlanta matchup, I have no issues if you fall on one of them. I prefer Devin Booker to Chris Paul. DeAndre Ayton is definitely in play. I would like to see those minutes to be there a little bit more in the low 30s. Obviously, coming back from a lower body injury, they're a little bit safe with him, and they kind of JaVale McGee went on a little run there, and I think Monty Williams decided to write the hot hand for an extra few minutes the last game. But Chris Paul and Devin Booker definitely seems like a solid play across the board. I like him the best on FanDuel, but I think with all this value opening up, we might get him a little bit lower owned just because people are just going to occupy those value spots with some of those Spurs guys and maybe some Detroit guys if we get that starting lineup. So Devin Booker definitely like quite a bit tonight.
Anybody else for Phoenix that is somewhat viable today, just given that they are getting players back in the rotation, have had him back really? Because it's mostly, I mean, when I look at this team, I like Booker. Paul's price is getting up there, but if the guy's going to continue to play like 38 to 40 minutes, I'm 100% willing to get there in what should be a competitive road game. He's playing extraordinarily well. His potential assists are through the roof recently. I mean, it's obviously his real assist, but just his playmaking ability and just the overall opportunity as a playmaker has been crazy. You're getting just huge doubles from him recently, Rinpack. When does he get to a price point where we say we got to pump the brakes a little bit?
So it's not kind of a price point. I think there's enough games on this slate where I would rather shy away. There's guys priced around him like Russ. There's a Steph Curry, and just guys in better spots than Chris Paul. There's everyone. They got another guy, body back in DeAndre Ayton, who does get involved offensively. So I've kind of already decided to pump my brakes just because of the number of games on the slate and the other players just on this slate. Now, if you fall on Chris Paul in like a turbo slate, that's fine. He has the upside there. But on this type of slate, I just think there are better point per value plays, and I'm willing to spend that salary elsewhere. So the upside of Ayton coming back his assist rate, like you said, has been great. And I think I just think we've seen this run of Booker and Chris Paul. I think they're going to come back to earth a little bit. They've been playing exceptional when all these guys were hurt, and they were playing an extra bit, a few minutes there, as they didn't want to give all those campaign minutes to Elfrid Payton. So we saw a little bit more minutes go to Chris Paul. He's been getting them here and there, but I think he's gotten to a price point already on this type of slate just to shy off a little bit.
Okay. It is crazy, man. Potential assists, right? Over the last month, 21.5 per game for Chris Paul.
That's insane. The point guard. I mean,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Next closest player is 18.2 is Darius Garland. Like that's a crazy difference over the.
I hope Garland gets named an all-star because someone on that Cleveland team needs to be on the all-star team. So we'll see who gets on gets voted there.
Yeah, Booker or Paul. I don't know.
I'm sorry. I meant Cleveland. Garland for Cleveland, but I think Booker and Paul will get named to the all-star team. They're the best team in the league, right?
Yeah, I don't even pay attention to that stuff. I honestly couldn't tell you who's in the all-star game.
Okay. Yeah, you don't know the starters?
I could give you some of them, probably.
I guess the big shock was Andrew Wiggins is named a starter.
I knew that. That's absurd. Okay. I mean, obviously, I know Embiid is just because I'm around this way. Like Giannis is definitely a starter. There's no denying, right? Giannis has to be a starter.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you who the starters of both sides are though now, like the full starters.
Yeah, John Moran obviously deserved it for sure. And I think Trey Young also got one yet again this year. So
okay. Yeah, that's cool. It's totally meaningless, but I guess it could be fun.
They did anyway. Speaking of the All-Star game, you should the NBA announced they redid the Kobe MVP trophy, and there's some awesome details for each like each level of the trophy. I'll send you the link. It's really cool what they did.
Okay, cool. Anything else for Phoenix?
The Phoenix side of things, if you do sprinkle in some DeAndre Ayton on FanDuel, that's fine. He has the upside to get you there, but he's coming back from an injury. But that's honestly about it. No Mikal Bridges. He's way too expensive.
Okay. So last game we had no Trey Young. Bogdanovich off the bench was a solid producer. Could have been in a good spot today, but we are projecting Young in. It looks like the books have made that adjustment as well. that actually came off and went back on at, like I said, from 6.5 to 4. If Trey Young plays and it doesn't have any restrictions, which I don't imagine he would after a 1-game hiatus, do you want to get there at all?
Man, he's coming in very low owned. If there's a site I would take my chances on, it is the 9K price tag on FanDuel. But Trey Young, he's like the only guy that plays north of 30 minutes consistently on this team. Everyone else just like goes all over the map. I think Trey Young is the only guy I think you can take your chances on in some sort of confidence. I really don't have any interest in anyone else. It's a tough Phoenix matchup. The only reason why I would have interest in a guy like Trey Young just because of the shot volume he gets and the upside he can reach with that shot volume.
Anybody else for Atlanta?
No, not really. Honestly, no.
Yeah, look, if there isn't anybody, feel free. Like, we definitely don't need to spend time on players that we're not interested in. You should be spending some time on Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, though, because you get a free month of Awesemo plus Platinum. All the tools we talked about earlier, all of them for free for the entire month. If you were to pay for that, it's a $90 value. So if you use the link in the description or the one that Jordan's about to throw in the chat right now, you get all of that, every single sport, every tool we have on the site for the entire month, totally free. Awesemo plus Platinum. You've got access to all of it. And all you need to do is sign up using the link. Not to mention, you'll get $10 of free credit from Yahoo put into your account when you sign up. They have the best payout structure that you're going to find. Tonight's $50,000 NBA baller. You're going to have some huge contests for the Super Bowl coming up. And yeah, it's not just the fact that you get a free month and that all of our tools have Yahoo built into them as well, but just the fact that Yahoo actually has the best payout structure that you're going to find. And it's hard to find stuff like that these days with very low management fees. You may know that as Rake, much lower than everywhere else. Some of them negative management fees, some of them zero. Take advantage of it. If you're still not at Yahoo, and I can't imagine at this point that most of you haven't taken advantage of it if you hadn't already getting the free month. It used to be 2 free months. You haven't done it. Do it now. I don't know how long this lasts for. We've been doing it for a while, but eventually or soon enough, it won't be here anymore. So get that free month and use all the tools for Yahoo, DraftKings, whatever it is, and become a member. And when you do, use our Discord and our office hours as well, where you get the pros helping you out and helping you refine your game. So a lot of advantages to this, no question about it. Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, sponsor of the Deeper Dive. All right, let's go to Chicago, Toronto. You got the Bulls on the road here. They are 4.5-point dogs, 222 total. The one thing that stood out to me that I think we have to be paying a little bit of attention to, Ryan, is Levine with that back ailment, whatever it is, was downgraded from probable to questionable. Sometimes that can be a sketchy sign there heading into lock.
Yeah, no, that can definitely. Yeah. Do you know when the downgrade happened? Was it this afternoon? Sorry there. But
it was this afternoon.
Okay. Yeah. Keep an eye on that situation then. That's never helps the player if he's downgraded. Obviously the midday upgrade is what you're looking for. So yeah, that he can definitely sit there, and that's going to open up more things for DeRozan or Vucevic. And then the guy who's been pissing me off of late has been Ayo Dosunmu. He's been shooting way above his head of late. This guy's shooting, I think, 55+% from the field, or in like north of 43% from 3. So I expect him to definitely come back down to earth there. But DeRozan and Vooch in a Toronto matchup, if there's no Levine, I like quite a bit. Now, if we get Levine good to go, he's outstanding play at $7,700 on FanDuel. I think he's a pretty awesome play, raw points and value play over there on FanDuel. So keep an eye on the Levine situation. And now these guys on Yahoo all look like pretty awesome plays if they're going to go. DeRozan, Vooch, and Levine, 39, 36, and 34 respectively for those dollars. There's enough value to get these guys in. And usually I don't like getting the 2 of these Bulls players, but on this type of slate against Toronto, I have no issues landing on potentially 2 of these guys. And if there is no Levine, I'll definitely have some lineups with both DeMar and Vooch. I'm not too concerned with that combination.
I don't see any reason to be at this point. I mean, you take 3 guys that are really hard to differentiate. They're all very similarly priced each slate, right? Very similar per minute production guys, and then take Levine off. That opens a lot up.
Oh, 100%. And one thing I was saying earlier in the season, it's like playing when Lonzo Ball was there. It was kind of playing Chicago Bulls roulette. You got to kind of pick one. You hope you get it right because it's really tough to pinpoint. Now with no Levine, there's been extra ball handling, even going to DeRozan and with no Lonzo, there's been more ball handling falling in the lap of Levine and DeRozan. We've seen Kobe White obviously enter the picture, but these guys, when they're kind of shorthanded, and they might be even more shorthanded with no Levine, I have no issues just falling on both of them.
How about Toronto? Another thing we discussed on the strategy show is, all of these guys, like relative to price, are similar because they're playing such big minutes. I mean, you got Nick Nurse right now just feeding these guys 37 to 40 minutes in regulation in competitive games, which is, such a boon to success when it comes to fantasy production. Because even if you don't have the most efficient game, if you're out there for nearly 48 minutes, nearly the whole game, you're just gonna collect peripherals. You're gonna rack up stats.
Yeah, and that's why they've been so fun to roster of late. Nick Nurse just was like, I don't give a damn. I'm just going to play these guys 36 plus minutes if I can, barring any foul trouble. So Siakam, Van Vliet, Scotty Barnes, OG, the guy who I think I would be willing to shy away of late has been kind of, he's probably the most scoring dependent on this team, has been Gary Trent. But when you're shooting so many 3-point attempts, you're going to find a way to get there. And he's gotten there the last couple of days. But I'm willing to shy off Gary Trent now. I think $7,100 on FanDuel is too expensive. If you follow him at 61 on DK, I still wouldn't be excited to go there. Just the 3-point upside works out in his favor. These guys on Yahoo, Siakam and Van Vliet are fine. I really like Scotty Barnes at $25.
Okay. Jordan, run a poll. The chat's going wild right now. Run a poll. Should Andrew Wiggins be an NBA All-Star starter? So I want to see where this comes in at. Unbiased. I just want to see where we come in at on this poll. Let's see. Hit that poll and hit that thumbs up too. Over 600. I really don't even need to ask you guys because you've just been solid for us. 2,800 people watching today. What's up? Anything else for Toronto? And who are your top plays from this game? Let's say if Levine is out, who are your top plays from this game?
We'll go DeMar on the Chicago side. It's pretty easy there. And I don't mind falling on any Vooch. I really like Scotty Barnes over there on Yahoo on the Toronto side of things. I really like going to Van Vliet on FanDuel. And then on DraftKings, my favorite play would probably want to go to it has to be Siakam just because at 9K, I think with his power forward center eligibility, kind of gives you that sneaky upside of being the highest scoring player on the slate. And obviously ownership is going there with him. So yeah, that's how I'd go.
We got an ownership update recently, and Thad Young was coming in at 56% on DraftKings.
Jordan, if you can run another poll after this before we wrap up, are you playing Thad Young in yes or no question?
Yeah. Vassell, White, Trey Jones are 2, 3, and 4 in ownership projection as well. So lots of Spurs, man. Lots of Spurs. This should be fun. You're going to have to get some of that, right? How many are you willing to play in the same lineup?
You're asking the wrong guy. I do have an addiction when teams are shorthanded. You'll see me with 5 or 6 players.
Just loading up.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't, it's kind of a risk tolerance thing. You never get all 6 in a lineup to work out unless if they have 6 guys only active. But I think 3 to 4 is fine. If you follow, once you get to the 5 range, that's when it gets a little sketchy because these guys are all cheap. You're going to have to spend up somewhere, right? And there's not like guys who are priced north of 12K on the slate where you're spending all your salary. So got to mix and match those spots a little bit.
2 games to go. Let's talk Sacramento and Golden State. You got Sacramento with De'Aaron Fox at this point, still questionable. We got Marvin Bagley news earlier that he's out, but we don't know about De'Aaron Fox yet. Nevertheless, they're 13.5-point dogs, 225 total in Golden State. This is a tough spot for them, but really at this point, everything's still up in the air with De'Aaron Fox. If you don't have him playing, we could talk about like Halliburton on FanDuel at his price. If Fox is in to Halliburton's $8,500 on DraftKings. So pricing is getting weird here. And then Rashawn Holmes, I just have I have no confidence in the playing time for this guy right now. Where do you go with Sacramento today?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify on one thing. I think chat maybe misunderstood me. The Spurs are not as shorthanded as it seems. They do have they have enough active bodies just to like really run a widespread rotation. So
I think 11 I think they have 11 active.
Yeah, so there is significant amount of bodies where it's not like, oh, it's a minutes like thing where all of these guys who are playing are going to get 30 plus minutes. So do keep that in the back of your mind. So I just wanted to clarify that. But on the Sacramento and Golden State side of things, man, this Tyrese Halliburton and De'Aaron Fox situation was annoying last night. They said I think De'Aaron Fox is going to be active and like potentially play, and then they just they ruled him out. So it's an interesting situation of what's happening with De'Aaron Fox, because this has caused Tyrese Halliburton's ownership to be much lower owned than it should be going into the slate. And that's just kind of the power of late swap you have. And it's tough to pinpoint that situation with De'Aaron Fox, if he's going to play or not. And now if he's going to play, I do think that there will be some sort of minutes limit. It's an ankle injury. And if he doesn't play, it's going to help guys like Halliburton, Davion Mitchell, even a Buddy Hield at $4,700 on FanDuel. I know the minutes have been in the high 20s. Buddy Hield can definitely have one of those games where he can hit 5-6 3-pointers and get you there at $4,700 on FanDuel. So De'Aaron Fox kind of just runs that slate there. A guy who started off hot for the Kings team last night was Richaun Holmes, but he definitely tapered off as the team kind of got away against the Nets. But it's a tough to go there in confidence with no idea on what the Fox situation is.
I find this Golden State situation interesting now, because when you look at all of the highest priced players, LeBron's doubtful, DeJounte Murray's out, Trey Young's still up in the air. You have a lot of uncertainty here. So it leaves you with like Curry at his price, which is a pretty reasonable price in a good matchup against one of the worst defenses and one of the faster paced teams in the league. And then you've got like Anthony Davis, who we'll get to in the next game to close out the show. So just among all these guys, so many of them are out, which is definitely boosting Curry's ownership considerably today. He's around 23% on DK.
Yeah. And Steph Curry, even at that price tag, I think just because we have enough value now to just get him in there and just run with the raw points. Now, things can get definitely very interesting. If you are okay with the value and you just pivot, like if you want to save some money from, if you have Curry in your utility spot, I think just pivoting down to a Anthony Davis, I believe is, Anthony Davis is cheaper than Steph Curry. If you think Davis is better than a Curry, I have no issue leaving that much type of money on the table. It's not even that much, but I think Curry's in a great spot just because the game's going to go. He's definitely going to take those shot attempts, 3-point bonus on DraftKings, enough value to jam him in there. So I have no issues if you come along with the field. I probably will come in at just a tad bit under on a guy like Curry, just because I think there are ways I think I could spend that salary a little bit elsewhere and pivot off of a guy who's obviously can get you scoring dependent wise, but doesn't really fill up the stat sheet in other ways. He can get steals here and there, but I just think will be willing to come in a little bit under and targeting other guys later at night.
The only thing that sucks with, Davis, and we'll get there, is on DraftKings specifically, he's only center eligible.
Yeah.
So, if Levine ends up being out, then you've got Vooch, you have Towns, you have a lot of them. So that definitely makes it a bit more interesting. Let me hit on these super chats real quick. Bill from earlier asked OG and Trent or Edwards and Coffee, DraftKings cash.
Oh boy. So when you're taking a cash game lineup, always just take the raw points and just run with it. So interesting. He said Edwards and who?
OG and Trent or Edwards and Coffee.
Dang, that's just Amir Coffee is such a question mark with what those minutes are going. But I think I'm gonna have to go with. Let's see what we.
And you got OG and Trent on the same team too. Not that it's a huge.
Two and then. Oh wow, that's really close. It's a toss-up, man. I think I'd wait on some news. So he said Coffee, right?
Yeah.
Let's go. I think it honestly might be Edwards and Coffee, just because and based off our projections, we have the raw points by 4+ points, I think.
Okay. Damn, I'll go well over 500 votes on that. No is 70 on Wiggins All-Star. 30%. Okay, 30%, 70-30. All right. Ken Birch is active today. Let's see. All right. And then Diallo or Clay on FanDuel utility, Ryan? Diallo or Clay?
Oh boy. We got to wait on the Diallo news if he's starting, but FanDuel utility. Diallo or Clay. I think I'm going to have to go with Clay. I think Clay's minutes are it's gone 24, 25, 26, because he's been playing one extra minute as each week goes along. So I think he's going to start playing 27, 28 minutes, if not starting tonight.
All right. And then I am God TV. What's your favorite pick on Prize Picks? I haven't looked at Prize Picks today. I can tell you this much. So if you go to Odd Shopper and just sort by expected win rate and then compare that and our projections and our to the props over there, it's seriously the best way to do it, or use our player prop tool. But oddshopper.com, go ahead. Did you have one?
Yeah, I have one. It's the DeMar DeRozan under assists prop line coming in at 6 right now. The under comes in. We have him at expected win percentage of 73. Free tool, by the way. So make sure to check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, keep an eye on Levine there.
Yeah, Levine news will change it.
Yeah. Anything else for Golden State?
As crazy as it sounds, I don't mind falling on a little bit of Klay Thompson. I've been riding this minutes uptick. There's going to be a game where Klay can get lighted on fire, and why not Sacramento? I believe Sacramento is one of the teams he lit up 37 and a quarter. And not that that matters, but Klay Thompson is someone who I've been kind of getting above the field on, just shooting for that upside. More of a better late night play than main slate play, just because of the great value we already have, but no issues on falling on Klay. I don't want to go to Kevon Looney at these elevated price tags. No way. It's honestly just Steph and Klay. And that's really about it.
All right. Let's wrap this up. Lakers. 700 likes. Thanks, guys. Lakers, Clippers. Let's make it happen. I don't think that this will take too much time, honestly. Then we'll turn this over to Greg and Eric for Live Before Lock. Again, hang out with them afterwards if you're not doing anything. The post-lock show, talking ownership, Yahoo, all that good stuff, shooting the ship. I like Anthony Davis a lot, and his ownership is really not that high right now. Obviously, on FanDuel or DraftKings, he's only center eligible. But if we're assuming that he's not going to see limited minutes on the second of a back-to-back, I have no problem getting there. A lot more popular on FanDuel, I think rightfully so, $9,600, but he has power forward and center eligibility. So that's pretty considerable. And then 41 on Yahoo, he's getting around 26%. So it's just one of these spots where should be a close game, neutral court, LeBron James doubtful. Very interesting.
Yeah, we also got Levine will play today. So
okay, there you go.
So that's pretty important news for that Bulls team. But yeah, looking at this Lakers situation, it's just another home game. They're playing against the Clippers. So I love Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook a lot. I loved them a lot last night. 8,500 Russ on FanDuel, $35 and $41 for Russ and AD on Yahoo, respectively. Yeah, I'm willing to go get above the field on these guys. We've seen Carmelo Anthony shoot very well from the field of late over the last 2 or 3 games. I don't expect that to be sustained, but I can't go to him. I'd rather take my chances on a guy like Malik Monk than Carmelo Anthony, even at Monk's elevated price tag. But yeah, I think he'll be a little bit low owned. Russ and AD priority plays on the slate. Makes a lot of sense to spend up for both these guys, and there's enough value to do so. So Russ and AD, I have no issues if you fall on both of them. I do prefer AD to Russ in any. If you were to ask me to pick one Laker, I'm going with AD though.
Okay. What about the Clippers, man? I mean, this team's just down everybody. We're still waiting on Zubats to see what happens there, but just assuming he's in, and right now we do have him projected in. It's a little bit going to Reggie Jackson, Marcus Morris, and those types, but this team's been tough to get to lately. Just anybody you really like? Anyone stand out to you for one of the 2 late night games here?
I don't mind going to Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris. I know the minutes have always been up in the air of late with Ty Lue, but those 2 guys I think have the greatest upside on this team. The Amir Coffey experience, he's been balling, but I'm not buying into it. Clippers fan Jordan Klein loves Amir Coffey. He always texts me, Amir Coffey's balling out. How'd you not play him tonight? Why did you play him? Why did you not play him? Always giving me shit. But give me Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris on this Clippers side of things. Now, there's no Ivica Zubac. I was pretty excited to play Isaiah Hartenstein last game. It didn't work out. It was Serge Ibaka who panned out. I don't mind landing on some Hartenstein yet again tonight. I know it's not necessary with all this value that's opened up, but keep an eye on that situation in the Clippers front court. Ibaka was very good in those, I believe played 24 minutes and was very, very good at, he just was great fantasy wise. I expect that to come down to earth a little bit, and maybe we get some Hartenstein tonight.
Okay. Shane said, yeah, but Lop, you can play Davis at center and another center in utility on DraftKings. Right. There's just a lot of opportunity cost at center today. A little less now that Levine is in, but still a lot of these guys are very popular. And then, of course, Brooklyn Silver, Lafayette, you're my boy and everything, but why are you going overtime on a 6-game slate? Must not be your boy because you don't know me, sir. Anyway, shout out to Jordan Klein for producing the show. Appreciate you as always. Greg and Eric coming up next. Follow Ryan at Rinpack on Twitter, me at Lafayette_D. Final thoughts before we get out of here, man?
No, late swap. Keep an eye on news, and thanks so much for tuning in, guys.
All right. Peace. We'll see you back here soon, guys.
Tuned in to NBA Live Before Lock.
So is that even, did he just say that with food in his mouth? Like, I'm not even sure it's a filter.
I don't know. It sounds like he's gargling salt water or something. Welcome, everybody, to the NBA Live Before Lock, presented by Yahoo. I'm Eric Lindquist, excited to be talking this 6-gamer with a lot of news, a lot of value now here. and my co-host, per usual, here on these live before lock shows. Maybe not tomorrow. I think we're going to be mixing it up a little bit. He's heading to the deeper dive. He's going to abandon me. I headed to the deeper dive yesterday. We get some Terry in our lives. All is good. But at Ehrenberg DFS, go follow him. He's Greg Ehrenberg. How you doing, my dude?
It would be better if it wasn't a Spurs slate, just because I know I say this all the time about coaches, but what are they? They're dirty, filthy liars, and none of them are bigger criminals when it comes to this department than Greg Popovich. Really, I'm ashamed to share the same first name with this guy because he does nothing but lie to us. He gave us a starting five, and it's massively impactful on the ownership for today's slate and how we're going to look at some of these value plays. But here's the issue. The last time we saw a situation like this, they had players coming back from COVID. What did Popovich tell us? He said Derek White is going to play limited minutes. He's going to come off the bench. And I can't even remember who it was he said was going to start in place of Derek White. The game starts. Who's starting Derek White? So we've got the situation with the Spurs. I kind of feel like we have to take him at his word because like what else do we have to go off of? But it's such a dumb situation.
So let's kind of clear our minds here. So I've been filling in for Adam Sherry here on the DraftKings and FanDuel GPP videos. I give 5 plays under 15%. I really like coming into the slate. And, I research in the morning, kind of put all of my thoughts together and come up with 5 guys. And my number one on both sites was Thad Young back when he was 1% owned, because I thought legitimately this set up as a perfect showcase game. Now, a couple of things. One, this time moved from 8:30 p.m. Eastern time to 7 p.m. Eastern time. 2, Thaddeus Young got announced as possibly starting here. And I'm assuming, once again, same as you, where I'm taking Pop at his word, he becomes the most popular player here on this slate, the most important play that you can get to on this slate. It's a little bit frustrating because Eubanks is a guy that hasn't played over 24 minutes whatsoever in a game this entire season. And it makes sense to me. It's going to be a hard contract for them to move. Greg, I know you're going to say 24.1 minutes. Don't start with that at the very beginning of the show. I saw somebody typed a volcano in earlier. That was kind of funny to see that emoji next to my name. Hello, welcome to the show. But I definitely think that is Young. This makes sense as a spot where if you've put him in bubble wrap and you're not making a part of your future now, you're not going to make him a part of your future in the future. What? Something like that. Whatever, you know what I mean. I'm pretty positive that Thaddeus Young is going to play a boatload of minutes in this spot. Remind people what they're going to possibly be trading for here come next week, Thursday.
The other thing, too, is just the way the Western Conference is terrible. I'm not even sure the Spurs are sellers at the deadline. They could be buyers. I don't know that they're necessarily looking to trade. They are a game and a half out of the last play-in spot. We've got the Spurs 2 games out of the final play-in spot behind the Portland Trailblazers, who might not have Damian Lillard coming back and maybe could be trading away CJ McCollum. Like, I think there's a chance that teams like the Pelicans and the Spurs are buyers at the trade deadline just because they're kind of in the mix and the West sucks. All those teams are beatable at the bottom.
Yeah, but they're 19-33. They're just not going anywhere, and it's just not a good basketball team. It is.
They're 19-33, but if the season ended today, the Trailblazers would be in a playing game at 21-31.
It's true. It's true. But I'm saying if you're not going to have him in your rotation, you might as well try to get him to turn him into something. In Chicago, we've seen what happens when he gets any kind of minutes. We've seen in limited sample size here in San Antonio what happens if he gets any kind of minutes. He's a 1.1 DraftKings points per minute producer on the year, actually a little better, 1.12. So I find it hard to get away from on this slate. We go position by position, but I think that this was just such an outlier situation. It is now a lock time of 7 p.m. Eastern time. Wanted to touch on that right from the get-go. We'll go position by position, but I got to ask you this because it's what I always ask you, Greg. What piece of news is going to shape your lineups the most between now and lock?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to be paying attention to that Spurs lineup and, just waiting to see who gets the green check mark on DraftKings, because that's going to be really pivotal to find out who the best plays are. It's looking out for that green check mark from the best news source out there.
To the guard position we go. I'm not going to even entertain you with this. We've got Devin Vassell, Derek White, Trey Jones. We've got 3 pieces now of this Spurs rotation that we need to figure out exactly how much we want to get to them. I know I was watching the previous show. Ryan talks about getting to 5 or 6 of these guys. Obviously, these are part of your 5 and 6 that you would get to in certain spots. Maybe not all in the same lineup for me. I'm probably looking at playing 4 or 5 in most of those. I'm happy to get there. They're, other than Derek White, not very cost prohibitive. Can you rank these 3 guards in terms of your preference on DraftKings and FanDuel for me?
So the 4 being Trey Jones,
Devin
Derek
Vassell,
White.
and Derek White. Those 3.
Okay,
Lonnie
yeah,
Walker's a little bit further
okay.
down the board.
Okay, that's where I was confused. You said 4, and I was trying to figure out who the 4th was.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so it is for me, Trey Jones, Derek White, then Devin Vassell.
All right, talk to me a little bit about Trey Jones first then.
Yeah, so if we are going to take Greg Popovich at his word, which even if we're going to say like, he's not trustworthy, I still don't even know who else would I project to be in the starting lineup anyway, and they don't have that many guys active. So here's the full list of active players for the Spurs today. It's Derek White, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Trey Jones, Thad Young, Lonnie Walker, Drew Eubanks, Josh Primo, Juancho Hernan-Gomez. That's 9 players if I've counted correctly they have available. Even if, let's say, Drew Eubanks starts ahead of Thaddeus Young, or let's say Lonnie Walker ends up in the starting lineup, like, these guys are still going to play, decent minutes, and they're still going to be cheap. That isn't changing either. And hopefully, if something does change with the starting lineup, we'll find out at some point before the game locks. What's the reason, by the way, the game start time moved to 8:30? Do you know?
Say that again?
Why did the start time move to 8:30?
Oh, inclement weather in San Antonio, I believe is what I heard. So I'm assuming not snow or something, but obviously there's something going on weather-wise where they moved it up an hour and a half to get them out of there.
No, moved it back an hour and a half.
Or moved it back an hour and a half. Correct. Thank you.
Well, that's something else that would be the most NBA DFS thing ever if we find out like 15 minutes before that game starts that it's not playing. But that aside, there aren't that many guys active for the Spurs. I'm going to assume for now this is the starting lineup. And I think Trey Jones is going to start at point guard. We've seen him play that role so far this year. And was he gotten 3 starts now? I'm pulling up his game logs really quick. So he's made, 3 starts for Trey Jones, averaging right under 30 minutes in those starts, averaging 24.5 fantasy points. That's really solid relative to his price, and they're more shorthanded than they've been in some of those other starts.
Yep, I'm right there with you. Trey Jones, I think, is my priority guy. I think Derek White, though, don't exactly know how you get away from playing a lot of him as well. And Devin Vassell with the shooting guard, small forward eligibility. I talk about it a lot, where you can play him at 5 spots. That makes him invaluable. That's why you're seeing him garner the most attention right now over on DraftKings. A little bit further down the board, Lonnie Walker, who will be coming off the bench here. That always means high 20s minutes usually for him. Again, it's Popovich. You never really know. He can pull the rug out on anybody from any given time. But what do you think about Lonnie Walker as kind of a piece to add into the Spurs?
Yeah, so he's obviously a lower priority play coming off the bench. Let me refresh the ownership projections to see where he's sitting right now. He is currently, so no ownership update yet. He's still fairly popular. And if he is going to come off the bench, it's hard for me to like him quite as much as the field. He's 20% projected owned right now on DK. FanDuel is 5,100. That's just kind of a tough price point for me to get to on Lonnie Walker. And he's also still picking up ownership at that number. So unless something changes with the starting lineup, I don't really have that much interest in him relative to where the field's at on him.
All right, goody. $9.99. Wasn't there a game this year Thaddeus Young started and then only played 15 minutes? Popovich is a friggin' liar. I think he hates fantasy points. Well, one, I don't think Thaddeus Young has started a game here for the Spurs. Correct me if I'm wrong, Greg Ehrenberg.
Thaddeus Young has not started a game this year. There's been times where he was a chalk play and didn't play massive minutes. So actually, though, so some of those games where Drew Eubanks started and Thad Young came off the bench, Thad Young did play more minutes in those games. As you had pointed out before, the most minutes that Drew Eubanks has played this year was 24. Eric Short changed a little bit. It's actually 24 in a few seconds. But Thad Young has played as many as 26.3 minutes this year. So I think even if Eubanks was to start, if we're getting a starting lineup change, I think I'd probably still project Young for more minutes than Eubanks.
I would too. I'm going to be whatever you want to do. Let's see. Young, they're talking about Young here for a second. We'll get to Trey Young here in a moment, but want to go through some of these other guys. We've got Anthony Edwards with the return here. Patrick Beverley will play. Josh Okogie was in and then he was out, so that doesn't really matter to me whatsoever here. We've got Devin Booker. We've got a number of these other guards kind of garnering between 15 and 20% rostership that are not part of these Spurs. Now, anywhere else you go, you're going to be kind of trimming the ownership down. And obviously we're going to have some spend ups to get to. So before we get there, who are some other players that are not the Spurs, not the spend ups. We're talking like sub 6K. We're seeing like a Corey Joseph at 4,300, Patrick Beverley 4,800, garnering some attention now. Who are some other guards that are like 6,500 and below on DraftKings that you might sprinkle in instead of San Antonio Spurs today?
All right. So 6,500 and below, who are some of the guys I'm getting to there? I don't really like Patrick Beverley that much, but on this particular slate, I am getting exposure to him. Not that much different than the field, though. I think where he's at right now with, let's see if that's changed. Yeah, 14% ownership on DK. I think it's about fair. I'm slightly overweight to that number. But Patrick Beverley is somebody who I think just because D'Lo has been confirmed out, I think we're going to see a little bit more playing time potentially go to Patrick Beverley. And let's see who else in that price range. My guard position is so dominated by these Spurs guys. There's other guys obviously that I've mixed in here, but in terms of ones that I'm getting, like double-digit exposure to, in that price range, it's only Beverley for me.
Yeah, that was kind of the point that I wanted to make is we're going to get a lot of questions about this player or this player. We've got 41 minutes to go, and it happens every slate where it's like, oh, would you play this person instead of the Spurs? And it's like, no, I just don't see a need to get that much different. I do have a little bit of Patrick Beverley, but I'm below 15%. I have a little bit of Gary Trent, but I'm below 17%. I've got a little bit of Klay Thompson, but I'm below 13%. I mean, these are all guys I'm underweight on because I'm taking such massive overweight approaches to the Spurs. Yes. Do I always talk late swap? Do I always preach late swap? Absolutely. But there are outlier situations, and this is one of them. I think the Spurs are impossible not to be massively overweight to. If you're, making more than one lineup, more than 20 lineups, even if you are, you should be playing a large allotment of Spurs no matter what. And the guard position, there's 4 viable guys, not just viable, 4 elite, 3 elite plays and then throwing Lonnie Walker into the mix. Now let's talk spend ups because Steph Curry is a guy that's pretty popular, really popular over on his decreased FanDuel tag, but 10-4 over on DK, still garnering over 20% rostership. Trey Young, that's going to be a piece of news we're waiting for in the late night hammer. I feel like, if I want to get different or if I need to, if I have dead lineups or if I'm trying to find a way that I'm blocked out and I need to make a move, maybe if Trey Young gets moved in, I'll just swap from Steph to him. Chris Paul has shown a massive ceiling. Russell Westbrook without LeBron is garnering 20%. Devin Booker. Who are some of these guards that you're getting to on the top end the most?
I love Trey Young for this slate. And I know we don't have him projected for that much ownership right now. This is a number that could be even lower by the time the slate actually starts because it's that questionable tag. He's projected for 5% ownership now, but people just aren't going to want to click his name when they see that questionable tag over on DraftKings. As much as we joke about the green check marks because it's hilarious, the questionable tag is massively important to some people when they're just building their lineups, to looking at that info, whether it be on DraftKings or FanDuel. People are just not going to hand build and put those guys into their lineups. And Trey Young, he missed last game. He's going through shoot around as normal today. That's what happened the other day. He ended up getting ruled out. But I do think he's more likely to play than he is to sit today, Trey Young. So I like him quite a bit. He's actually my favorite point guard spend up option. Somebody I like at shooting guard we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, for Trey Young, there's almost no ownership there. And you talked about Steph Curry. I have Steph Curry and Trey Young projected very, very similarly. Half a fantasy point more for Steph Curry for me, but we're really splitting hairs here. It's very similar. And people might look at that and think like, oh, how could you have the Steph Curry not project for way more than Trey Young? And the reality is Steph Curry has good games every once in a while, and his ceiling is obviously massive, but there aren't that many great fantasy games for Steph Curry. He scored 60 plus fantasy points. Let's see, 3 times since Christmas. Whereas Trey Young is somebody who, he's done it twice in the last 2 weeks. So I think there's more of a reliable upside in Trey Young, maybe a little bit higher of a floor, and he's coming at a fraction of the ownership.
Yeah, 1/4 of the ownership. I think that's a great call, great shout out for Trey Young. He's somebody that, once again, I'm happy, landing on. Obviously, that's not in the late window of games. We'll have to be locking in that spot a little bit earlier, but we should know Trey Young's status. I mean, if he's out, we'll have to unpack a whole nother grouping of guys in Brandon Goodwin and Kevin Huerter and those guys, because they'll come in at a fraction of the ownership to some of these Spurs guys. And obviously it would matter. Donovan Mitchell, that does not apply to today. All right, my friend. I love that Trey Young shout out. Oh, look at Jordan Klein too. Keeping everything tight in the chat there. Hey friends, ownership rankings are free today. It also said NHL rankings, but NHL is on the All-Star break, so probably can't use those. Check out the NBA stuff, though, because that's what we're referring to. That's what's up on the screen. Thank you so much to Jordan Klein, best producer in the game. Name Jordan Klein whatsoever. He gets to meet the puppy this weekend. Y'all are missing
I'm actually
out.
jealous of that.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty fun. Duke, he has just been a menace today, but you know what? He's cute-ish, and he better stay cute, because I tell you what, he is an absolute terror, and I'm getting no sleep, but that is all right. Let's keep talking some basketball, and that's how I'm staying alive, alert, awake, enthusiastic right now. We've got a super chat from, where is it? Crooked Samaritan. Max amount of Spurs you would play on FanDuel, and any other rules you would set. $10. Thank you so much. We will give this $10 of service for sure. Well, the max would be 5, because you can't roster 5 on FanDuel. That's what I'm saying, is that you would have cheated. So like the max is 4, and I'm going to play 3 and 4 in pretty much every single lineup for the most part over there. So yeah, 5 would be cheating, but any other rules you would set, I think, is a really interesting question, Greg.
No, and just looking at my FanDuel build, just running my optimal lineups, I have, let's see, out of 150, 11 of them have 4 Spurs, and 57 of them have 3 Spurs.
Look at that. Exact fractions, exact numbers. That's what we're asking for. Once again, I don't need this Friday news on Utah. I don't need it. Don't do that, side, but we appreciate them anyway. Goody, $4.99. What's your take on Towns? DK GPP 20 max. I promise we will get to center a lot quicker. I will make sure that gets taken care of, because we're both going to have a lot of adjustments. We need to get that confirmed Spurs lineup and be able to adjust to it. But back to the guard position, 35 minutes to go, making fantastic time. I love the Trey Young call out here. Looking at the bottom end, if you get Trey Young ruled out, which we will know within the length of this show, I would assume. Obviously, we're going to be going half an hour over talking our friends over at Yahoo, the best site you can possibly play on with the lowest management fees. But Atlanta could have some value. Let's just play the theoretical game. Is there anybody that would take a massive jump up for you with the absence of Trey Young?
So for me, I mean, not really at this point, because the situation that we have with the Spurs so overrides any value we'd be getting from Atlanta. So last game, Delon Wright started in place of Trey Young, and he ended up playing, 23 minutes off the top of my head. I'm pulling up his games. Yeah, 23 minutes we got out of Delon Wright that game. And it's a really difficult matchup against the Phoenix Suns. So he's going to be going up against Chris Paul defense. I can't look at Delon Wright, who I would project for, about the same 20, mid 20s minutes. That's just not enough playing time. We have all this Spurs value. So it wouldn't change that much for me. Bogdanovic would be one guy worth getting to, more DK specific at 4,900. But still, I really look at this team as being Trey Young is the most important player on the team for me. If he's in, I'm playing him. If he's out, it's a little bit of exposure to Bogdanovic, but not that much else.
If he is out, I will be locking in Delon Wright. Like, I will have as much as I humanly possibly can get to. There's no Lou Williams tonight. So that's 18 minutes. Lou Williams was in the rotation, played pretty serviceable in that Toronto game. Those 18 minutes have to go somewhere. Bogdanovic is still being limited. He played 31 last game. That's the highest he's had in a while. But I don't see any way that Delon Wright comes off the floor in this Atlanta game. Right now, I can tell you, if Trey Young gets ruled out right before lock, I'm going to pivot so hard to Delon Wright, it's not even funny. I think Kevin Huerter will get sprinkled in. He's 4,500. That's a little less appealing, but we're talking about a 3,600 Delon Wright. 1, he's cheaper than some of the Spurs value. 2, no Lou Williams makes me just want to jam him like 100% and live with the result, because I just think he'll come in way under owned compared to any Spurs, because it's all we're talking about. It's all anybody's paying attention to. So Delon Wright with no Trey Young, my favorite tournament play on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of variables there. I'm personally going to be giving minutes to Skylar Mays in that situation. I'll be giving some minutes to Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot if Trey Young's out. So I'm still not going to be giving Delon Wright more than probably like 24 to 26 minutes in that situation. I understand what you're saying. Lou Williams played 18 minutes. Those minutes have to go somewhere. I think that they're just as likely to go to Skylar Mays or TLC, neither of whom were in the rotation last game.
Don't say that to me. I don't want to hear that.
Say what?
I just want Brandon Goodwin to play 30. Or sorry, not Brandon Goodwin. I want Delon Wright to play 30. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think so. He wasn't even, was he even playing? He was playing over 30 earlier when everybody was out.
He's playing like 34 a night.
Yeah,
he 40, 39, 34, 34. If no Lou Williams is there, I'm just giving him like more than half of those minutes. And that just makes him like clearing away my favorite tournament play.
You don't think Skylar Mays or TLC pick up any minutes though?
I really, really don't.
Yeah. Give me the Spurs guys. I'm not going to play Skylar Mays today. I'm just give me Trey Young. I hope Trey Young plays.
Right. I do too, but I'm talking hypotheticals. And I think that that's an important thing that maybe we don't always talk about. We talk about the news as it comes in, but sometimes being able to kind of guess right in certain spots can be helpful. I have an allotment of lineups that are reserved that I'm crunching that are going to be with Trey Young in and Trey Young out, because as I said, I would want to get to 25% plus of him at 5% at a lower rostership number, because he's such a high upside option with no attention compared to everybody else at the top of the board. But I also think that, if you're talking about anybody that has the ability or the capacity to play more minutes or to do more than some of these Spurs values, I don't know how it's not right. Like, he's cheaper than those guys too. So there's an extra little bit of cushion. He doesn't even have to, if he does the same thing as them, you are in a golden spot.
Yeah, and by the way, because people are saying stop talking about Skylar Mays, I'm not going to play Skylar Mays, but if you project Skylar Mays for 0 minutes versus projecting him for 12 minutes, it makes a big difference in the other Atlanta guys and how you view them.
All right. Well, we will get to that when we get to it, and I promise you we'll have Trey Young news more than likely throughout this show. So let's keep it moving. Anything else for you from the guard spot you want to talk about, Greg?
From the guards, Anthony
Zach
Edwards.
LaVine in people want to talk about too. We'll get to that in a second. Anthony Edwards, go ahead.
Yeah, so I really like this as a bounce back spot for Anthony Edwards. He sucked last game. Probably the worst game he's had of his entire career from a fantasy standpoint. There was no D'Angelo Russell that game. I was on him. You were on him that game too, if I remember correctly. And it just sucked. He didn't do anything. They crushed the Denver Nuggets. Like, this didn't even make sense. At halftime, I think the score was something like 69-40. The Minnesota Timberwolves are winning that game. Edwards had 5 points at that point, and Karl-Anthony Towns had 7. And I'm looking like, is the box score wrong? How do they have 69 points? And these guys have done nothing combined. And then Edwards did nothing in the second half either, but it's such a fluke and outlier of a game. And this is such an easier matchup going up against the Detroit Pistons. So I think this is a spot where Anthony Edwards is, once again, I project him pretty favorably, and people are not really getting to him as much as they should, I think, or aren't going to get to him as much as they should because of fears of what happened last game. I know right now he's projecting for around 20% ownership on DK and on FanDuel, somewhere around that same number. I actually think it's going to be lower than that just because people don't want to go back to that guy.
All right. Got the starting lineup from the Heat. Kyle Lowry. Welcome back, young man. Kyle Lowry. And you got PG Tucker, who will play as well. So Lowry, Robinson, Butler, Tucker, Adebayo, back to their regular 5. You can take shots on the upside of Jimmy Butler. You can take upside shots on Bam Adebayo. I just don't want to do it on this slate. Greg, any interest in anybody from Miami whatsoever?
No, especially not with Lowry back. And we never even got clarity on what happened with Kyle Lowry, but it's concerning when somebody misses a month with personal issues. But with that said, it's personal issues. He didn't deal with an injury. He probably doesn't go out and play 40 minutes or anything like that. But I think we could expect, close to a full allotment of minutes. And we just have guys that are all kind of see less production now with Kyle Lowry back in the mix. Nothing to see from Miami today.
Yeah, and then Chicago getting Zach LaVine in there as well. DeRozan, Vooch, LaVine, all 8,900, 9,100, 9,200 on DraftKings. Legitimately not going to get to just about anything. Like, I'm going to get to a couple percent in 150 of DeRozan and Vooch and LaVine, but like, I don't know how you possibly land on it as a priority. Are you doing anything with them specifically, Greg?
No, not at all. Especially because once again, it's a situation where we're getting somebody ruled in, not ruled out, just the anti of what we're looking for in value. And all of these guys have been priced up at this point because we've seen Lonzo out for a while and, the Bulls a little bit banged up. Caruso has been out and the prices are just appropriate. Now, I would have liked DeRozan if LaVine was out. And actually, I did think LaVine wasn't going to play. But now that he's in, just not much to see from Chicago.
Yeah, on FanDuel, I'll still play 7,700. Zach LaVine, I think he becomes a really nice tournament option over there. But I'm playing a little bit more on DK, so just paying attention to it there. They are just so expensive. And could one go for 50 plus? Absolutely. It seems like you can just pick straws on which one it's going to be here in any given spot. So I would normally say the lower owned one, but considering LaVine's priced up next to them, I'll still go to DeRozan on DK. Pick one of the 3 for me, as and that'll be all we talk about the Bulls on this slate.
I mean, none of them. Why don't play them?
Don't play them. Cool. You know what you should do though? You guys should definitely check out, if you're in the state of New York, that is, all of the great offers and promotions and promo codes. We have bonuses and everything you could possibly want here at Awesemo. Head to that page over on OddsShopper. Head to the article I know Alex Baker has had on the site now for quite some time here. If you want to see some of these offers, you can bet $10. You bet 10, they have the win $200. So it's a very small price to get in at certain sports books. They have a free NBA jersey at Caesars when you bet $100. They have $1,000 risk-free bet at BetMGM. So many of these amazing promotions can be yours right now. $1,500 match deposit bonus at Caesars. You want to take advantage of this. If you're in New York, I know Louisiana just offered a lot of this stuff as well. Head over to Awesemo, check out those links, because that is going to be how you can start building that bankroll, taking advantage of these amazing promos that sportsbooks are offering you to try out their product. And then head to OddsShopper. Use those in tandem, help you find some of the best props, the best lines according to Awesemo's projections, and be able to make some money. So check it out. Thank you so much, guys, for heading over to OddsShopper and checking out those tools. We're constantly tweaking them. Constantly, the guys behind the scenes are just doing such great work. So enjoy those with the parlay builders. We have arbitrage betting where you can find guaranteed wins on both sides of it if you go to various sports books. Amazing tools here developed by the team. So do not sleep on that. Head to oddshopper.com and check it out. All right, my friend, let's head to the forward position here. And our friend, yeah, this is going to be crazy. Thaddeus Young, 3K. I'm just locking him in on every site. What are you doing?
Yeah, assuming he starts, I like him a whole bunch. I don't know I'm going to be locking him in. I also like getting some exposure to Drew Eubanks just because we don't know what Popovich is going to do. I know that you have your stance that he's never played more than 24 minutes ever in his entire life, whether it be youth basketball or high school or anything like that. But the Spurs are typically not this shorthanded, and who knows, maybe Thad Young gets into foul trouble, and there's enough value on the slate that I don't think I need 100% of Thad Young. Now, with that said, he's my most rostered player today, just not quite a lock for me because we have so many other value plays to look at.
Rude. It's really rude, really. I mean, it's like
what, not locking in Thad Young? That's rude.
Devin Vassell. It's like this. I'm not going to go there. Devin Vassell. Let's talk about him.
So let's see. We already talked about him at the guard spot.
Yeah, we did. Sorry.
We could talk about him as a small forward too. He looks very similar as he did as a shooting guard. He's going to supposedly start for the Spurs if Greg Popovich is to be trusted. He's all right.
DraftKings added Pascal Siakam, added power forward eligibility for him. I think that's very important in terms of being able to get to him. He's playing massive minutes here for this team. Gary Trent apparently is made of flames. Trey Young available to play today. Good news for us. Play some Trey Young. I was going to say, I just was talking prospectively about right. And now Trey Young is just fire it all up. We don't even need to rehash those details. But Pascal Siakam, how do you view him on this slate? Because I think he's an intriguing guy to be spending up for on both sites.
Yeah. Speaking of coaches that lie, remember when Nick Nurse said he was going to tighten the rotation to limit the minutes of the starters? Remember that thing?
Psycho. 40 minutes, everybody going across the board, 50 plus in those overtime thrillers. Like, he is just lying out the side of his mouth.
Yeah. So Pascal Siakam, I thought actually him and Fred VanVleet, we didn't really talk about VanVleet that much, but they both project fairly well for me just from a minute standpoint, because what are you going to do? You look at these guys. So Siakam did get in some foul trouble last game and also was the tail end of a back-to-back. So picked up 4 personal fouls, and then also is the tail end of a back-to-back. All that means he played 35 minutes, like the lowest he's played in forever, because the other recent games for him, 41, 57, 43 and a half, 39 and a half, 34. That was another game that wasn't all that competitive. And also there was foul issues, 41 and a half, 43 and a half, 42, 41, 41. The workload is just totally ridiculous. And he's a good enough fantasy producer. The floor is so high. He has scored, under 40 fantasy points 3 times in the last month and a half. So I do like getting to Siakam and Fred VanVleet to a lesser extent, but hard to avoid him when you could project him for this many minutes.
Yeah, he's very secure in what those minutes are. There's a guy that I want to be secure in what his minutes are because I would have a lot more of him than I currently do at the forward spot. And that's Jeremy Grant, who's 6,500. Power forward over on FanDuel as well. Pretty comparable tag over there. I just don't know if he can get up to like 34, but with Cade Cunningham out, maybe I should be willing to find out. What are you planning to do with a relatively chalky Jeremy Grant on this slate?
Yeah, it's the price is incorrect. And Cade Cunningham's out. Jeremy Grant, if you look at the team's usage rates this year, he does have the highest usage rate on the team, 26.5%. When Cade Cunningham's off the floor, the one caveat to that is we haven't seen that much of Jeremy Grant with Cade Cunningham off the court this year because Grant's been hurt a lot recently. So it's kind of hard to know exactly what to expect there. It's also hard to know what to make of the minutes for Grant. But first game back, he played 29 minutes, and that was a game also they lost by double digits. It's a thumb injury also. I'd feel different if it was a knee injury. So I think we probably get close to full minutes from Jeremy Grant today. And with Cade out and extra usage going to him, if we could say 32 minutes for Jeremy Grant, that does make him one of the better mid-range plays on the slate.
All right. Super chat from Anthony Cook. Let's see. Cat and Edwards in the same lineup, one lineup only. Do you have a site for that, Anthony Cook? That would be helpful. But Cat and Edwards, one lineup to rule them all, one lineup to find them, Greg, on either site. Would you do it?
If I was hand building a single entry lineup, I wouldn't. I didn't make a rule to not have them together. I have two lineups that have Edwards and Cat both in them. Okay. It's not my it's not my favorite way to approach this slate because there's enough pay up options. It's not the end of the world if you do it, but if you're hand building one lineup, I would say avoid it.
Okay. If you're hand building one, I think you probably could, but it's something Ben Ross had talked about a lot during the NFL season where people don't do it. People, if they're hand building, don't do it. But I think enough people are going to not organically land on it that it's probably not worth your trouble to hand build and have the two in there. So thank you for your question. Thank you for your super chat here. I think we're all caught up on the super chats. Awesome. Let's talk some tournament plays here on the bottom end. We talked about some of the more popular forwards. We've got some of the spend ups we've discussed. Is there somebody here in like the 10, let's go to like 5 to 15% of ownership at forward that you're just getting to a lot more than the field?
Let's see. So for forwards, let me check if we have an ownership update also, because this could definitely change it.
I'm telling you right now, I'm going to get an uncomfortable amount of Trey Young now, like uncomfortable.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't say it's uncomfortable. I just like him a lot. Yeah. So I don't have any issue with it.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. Well, I just, as you said, Q tag, a little bit of a little bump that it's coming out a little bit later too. I don't think people are getting off of Russell Westbrook on FanDuel. I don't think that they're going to get off of Steph Curry on either site. So Trey Young, I'm just boosting it, and he is just coming in everything for me.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't have him projected that much different than Steph Curry, and fantasy production for the year, I don't even think that there would be a need to have to project him that differently. Steph Curry this year is averaging, let's see. So Steph Curry for the season averages 47 fantasy points per game. Trey Young for the season averages probably the same, if not a little bit more than Steph Curry. Trey Young actually averages quite a bit. He averages 2 more fantasy points per game than Steph Curry. And he's cheaper, and he has a fraction of the ownership. To me, that's a fairly obvious pivot. I know the matchup is a lot harder against the Suns than what Steph Curry has against the Kings, but I mean, he's got a fourth of the ownership.
Pause, everybody. Magruder is starting for the Pistons. We've got Joseph, Rodney Magruder, Sadiq Bey, Jeremy Grant, and Isaiah Stewart. That is a 3K special. Rodney Magruder in the mix. He had been playing some low 20s minutes there. This is his first start of the season. I'm just kind of pulling up some of his rates here. Magruder is generally, I can't even find him here right now. Where did he go on my sheet? I did not have this on my radar. Rodney Magruder starting for the Detroit Pistons. He is 3K flat over on DraftKings, over on FanDuel.com. He is 3,900. I didn't really even process that there would be somebody showing up 3K from Detroit in this early window of games with 18 minutes left to go. But here we are, Greg. Rodney Magruder starting, small forward only on DraftKings. Thoughts?
I mean, he's min price. If you have him in a couple on, it's not the end of the world, but it's hard to project him for a lot of minutes because he doesn't play a lot of minutes generally. He did have one game against the Kings where he played 32 minutes, although I'm pretty sure that was an overtime game. That was about 3 weeks ago. Other than that, he's really consistently been around 20 minutes. What do we think? We're getting like 28 minutes out of Rodney Magruder as a starter?
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. And he's 3K. So, I mean, I'm just going through some of his rates with these guys on the floor because you got to take Cade Cunningham off. And then that just kind of changes the overall combination of everything. I mean, Jeremy Grant isn't a traditional swap in, swap out, but Jeremy Grant, 25.3% usage with no Cade Cunningham in 251 minutes here. We're looking at Magruder all the way down at only 14.5% usage. That's second lowest on the team with Cade Cunningham off the floor. Magruder 0.72 DraftKings points per minute. None of that sounds very appealing, but 3K 28 minutes does.
So here's the other thing too with Magruder, and we just got a Rabashua asked, would you get off of any Diallo? I mean, I wasn't really playing Diallo anyway. I think there's better guys to look at on the slate, but especially even with Magruder starting now, giving him 20 minutes, that still comes out with a projection under 20 fantasy points for me.
Yep, I'm with you. Jake Lindland. We got Fade White on DK GPP crazy. No, he's 6K. You have other guards that are cheaper that could get there. I don't think it's crazy. Also, no Diallo love. Yeah, I have no Diallo love. He's not starting. Greg, how about the first part of that one? Fade White on DK GPP crazy.
I mean, it depends. It depends how many lineups you're playing. If you're playing one lineup, no. If you're playing a bunch of lineups and you have zero exposure to Derek White, yeah, it's problematic. He's one of my most rostered players today. I think you should have exposure to Derek White.
Yeah, I'm way above the field. So I think that is the path that I'm taking. Take your own path. Choose your adventure, if you will. Yeah, no Diallo starting. I know it's just weird, but Magruder, whatever. I don't even really know what to think about it here. I'm excited to see what we're going to project him for. I just put him in for 28 minutes, ended up getting to like 15% of him. I think that's just fine over on DK, where he's 3K. FanDuel, I don't really find a need for it at 3,900, but we shall see here with some of the updates. Excited to see what we're going to have there because, again, just not a guy I expected to be there whatsoever. Let's talk the Toronto guys here. So Gary Trent, beforehand, I didn't really get your thoughts on him. Fred VanVleet, we touched on after the fact, but Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby, both close to around 10% over on DK. Over on the FanDuel slate, guys, they're just playing a boatload of minutes and have the opportunity to maybe go nuts. But Scotty Barnes, 6,400 there, really popular, 25%. How do you view the rest of these Raptors outside of Siakam and Fred VanVleet?
Way different on DK compared to FanDuel, because on DK, I just don't really see a need to get to Gary Trent at 6,100 or Scotty Barnes at 6,800 or OG Anunoby at 7,200. Over on FanDuel, though, once again, I don't have interest in the 8,100 OG Anunoby. I still like Fred VanVleet. I still like Pascal Siakam, both FanDuel and DK. But Scotty Barnes to me at 6,400 on FanDuel, just especially because of the positionality, I find him pretty hard to get away from. So I like getting to him more than I like getting to Gary Trent. Gary Trent's been priced all the way up to 7,100. I understand he's making every shot he takes right now. It's not going to continue. His prices at his apex. I rarely like to pay for somebody who's in the midst of the hottest shooting stretch of their career. Like $7,100, Gary Trent's going to be cheaper in the very near future. And as well as he's shooting recently, last game, for instance, he goes 6 of 10 from 3. He ends up scoring 38 FanDuel points. 38 FanDuel points isn't even like some sort of like crazy crush at 7,100. So, like look at his last game. He said, what happens if he makes 40% of his shots from 3? Still a really good clip. And then we're looking at like 30 fantasy points flat for him at 7,100. So to me, Gary Trent, it's just too expensive.
All right, we got the confirmed Spurs starting lineup. It is exactly what we were given: Jones, White, Vassell, Johnson, and Young. So we are all set to go there. That is a relief. We shall see what happens on the floor. But as it stands, I'm happy to go there. Let's talk about one situation in the late night hammer we haven't even touched on yet. Again, this is a show where we go position by position most of the time here. And De'Aaron Fox is questionable. Once again, I don't really ever know what to think with these situations. I feel like he's been closer to playing in the last couple. I don't know what that feeling does for anything. It doesn't really matter. Tyrese Halliburton priced out of DK for me on FanDuel. Definitely somebody that at 7,600 I'll still have my eye on. But the reason I'm bringing it up now is Harrison Barnes. Another guy that I think in the next week could find himself on another basketball team. Not that they need to showcase Harrison Barnes. He plays gigantic minutes for this team no matter what, so long as these games are competitive. But they are 14-point dogs going into Golden State. I have some concern. Just, obviously a blowout would limit that to like 29, 30 minutes, and that would be problematic. But if it stays close, he's around 19% over on FanDuel. On the DraftKings slate would be very contrarian. He's not projecting out well at 6,100 for me, but do you have any kind of interest in this, any part of Sacramento on this slate?
Not really, because of the start time and the matchup. So even if Fox is out, there's been slates where we've all played Halliburton. But here's the issue now. Halliburton is 7,600 on FanDuel in a pretty difficult matchup against the Golden State Warriors. And he's 8,500 on DK. The FanDuel price point is, somewhat appealing. The DK one, though, to me is not at all at 8,500 in this price point. So to me, also the other thing is I'm kind of confident De'Aaron Fox plays today. You just get to a point. How many games in a row has he been listed as questionable? He has to play at some point, right? Are they going to do this the rest of the season where he's questionable and he gets ruled out 30 minutes before the game starts? He's clearly been getting closer to playing, or else they would have just ruled him out ahead of time. I think Fox plays today and just somewhat reduced minutes. I think we get like 30 minutes out of Fox.
I think that's a great projection for it. Yeah, Davion Mitchell would be somebody you could get to. I know on Yahoo, he's been like an eternal play at $12 down there on the last couple slates. That's gone well, but we've got a couple super chats to keep up on. We'll talk a little Yahoo. We're going to have half an hour devoted to them. After we get done with this, we got to talk center still, but we got to get caught up on these. Thank you to Jordan Klein for keeping me apprised of them. Jake Lindland, fade white G on DK. We talked about that one here. Let's see. We have
from Rugaro
228, Young and Eubanks. Okay. DK single entry GPP, Greg.
Yeah, they're cheap enough that I don't think it's an issue. So you could get, let's say the minutes are split right down the middle. You get 24 for Thad Young, and you get a close to season high 24 for Drew Eubanks, just like a fraction short of the most he's played this season. And it's, considering what their salaries are, it's not ridiculous to think like, oh, both these guys score around a fantasy point per minute. They score mid-20s fantasy points. Great relative to their salary. And I think there's a chance that Young and Eubanks do share the court together, with Eubanks at center, Thad Young at power forward. So I think there's no issue with playing them both together considering their salaries.
All right. We've got other ones here. We've got, oh man, so many guys. You guys are so appreciated. Marvin Jackson. G, what is your, so I'm assuming that's Greg. G. That's cool. What is your top 5 plays or core tonight? Who are your top 5 plays in terms of ownership, Greg, on this slate?
Yeah. So a lot of Spurs. A lot of Spurs. I don't even, should this be relative to what the field's owned or just in my lineups? Because to me, Thad Young, Trey Jones, Derek White, Pascal Siakam, Anthony Edwards. If I'm going relative to ownership, my favorite tournament play is Trey Young. You and I both talked about him quite a bit.
Yeah, I love Trey Young. I love Anthony Davis as a contrarian spend-up option for the center position over on DK. Karl Anthony Towns, I can't believe I'm getting him as low owned as what he is. I guess he's up to 20% now over on DK. So that's different from a little bit earlier, but you're still looking at a teens Anthony Davis. It's a back-to-back. It could burn me, but I'm willing to find out when he's 15, 16% on a 6-game slate. I just think it's very stars and scrubsy. So I'm paying up for stars. So it'll be a lot of stars, a lot of Trey Jones, Derek White, Devin Vassell, Thad Young. So thank you so much for your question. We've got Cheyenne DeWald. It's gross, but Magruder or Primo have 2 Spurs already.
Why does it have to be either?
That is probably the right answer. I would probably prefer every Spur as opposed to them, but you know what? Choose your adventure. I already said that earlier.
All right, let's see. So it was Primo or Magruder.
Yeah, I got 18% Magruder, and I'm going to trim it down here in the next 8 minutes. I'm just throwing it out there. That's too much.
Here's the issue. I have Magruder projected for fantasy points in the teens, and there's a lot of good value on this slate. I don't have Josh Primo projected well either. I have Magruder projected higher than Primo for what it's worth, but I don't think either of them should be priority plays. If it has to be one or the other, I'm going to say Magruder, but I don't think he's the strongest option today.
Yep. I just got him at 4%. That is what I wanted. I have him for 22. I kind of kept it pretty flat there, but Spurs are just coming up in everything, and they should be. They should be. There's no problem. But thank you so much also for your question. Are we caught up on super chats? I think we are. You guys are so appreciated, Greg. Yahoo, once again, we're going to be talking about them here afterwards. Right now, go sign up over there. Go play in this Thursday Night Baller. Not full yet, 500 entries to go. If you have 8 minutes and you're going to be building lineups, go play there. 10K to first. only 11% management fee. That's the lowest across the entire industry. You're not going to find a better tournament, period, for your bankroll, or just, in terms of raw upside, less than 5,000 entries with 10K up top. I don't know what you guys are waiting for. Go check that out here. Once again, 540 entries away from filling. So definitely going to probably overlay as well. So you're going to want to get in and play over there. We're going to be talking about their site and why we enjoy playing over there so much at the end of this program. And of course, we've got a lot of basketball to watch, specifically the San Antonio spot where apparently it is snowing, is what Chad said. That seems crazy to my mind thinking about San Antonio and Texas, but they've had some weird weather. That is for sure. Let's head to the center position. I kind of suggested Karl-Anthony Towns, my favorite guy to be spending up for at the center position. 10K, 10-2 over on FanDuel now. No D'Angelo Russell still. Anthony Edwards, I expect him to bounce back one of these games here soon, but Cat has been the guy there of late. How much Cat do you have today, Greg?
Let's see. So I have Towns in about 20% of my lineups right now in the field. Oh, so that's really close to the field. The field has him 20 on both sides. So yeah, I'm pretty even with the field, a little just a nudge above. I think the field's pretty on the spot there. You mentioned Anthony Davis before. He's really, really popular on FanDuel, and I understand why. He has power forward and center eligibility over on FanDuel. He's only 9,600. There's no LeBron today, so I think that Anthony Davis is a pretty good chalk play over on FanDuel. DK, I have pretty similar exposure to Davis as I do to Karl-Anthony Towns, and just considering the slight gap in the ownership between them, I guess I look at AD as a slightly stronger tournament option.
All right. I'm just kind of getting everything updated. 6 minutes to go here. Let's get to this. So we got the news that that Thaddeus Young is going to be starting here for the Spurs. Do you still have any Drew Eubanks exposure?
Yeah. And it was the same we talked before. Somebody had asked, is it okay to play Thad Young and Drew Eubanks in the same lineup? The reason I said yes is because I have exposure to Drew Eubanks. If I didn't have any, I would have said no because I don't like Eubanks. But I think Eubanks is a good pivot off of Thaddeus Young because there is a chance that Popovich is lying, number one. But then number two, Eubanks is a pretty good fantasy producer and he's only projected for 14% ownership. I don't think it's crazy to think the split is going to be 24-24 at center. And then maybe you get a couple extra minutes from Thad Young at power forward. So it's not outrageous to think both of them have good fantasy games.
All right. Rest of the center position, Vooch, far less important to me whatsoever. I mean, he's still garnering a lot of attention on the FanDuel slate, 21.8%. That's what'll happen when you're 8,700, I suppose, though. We've got Ayton who got ruled in. I'm okay getting to a little bit. I'm a tiny bit over the 6% over on FanDuel right now as I'm finishing up lineups over there. Really thought I might get to some more Zubats than what I was over on DK. This flurry of Spurs stuff just kind of changed up what I was going to do on DK. Over on FanDuel, I don't think we need to take that shot whatsoever at 5,600 and end up with dead center lineups. Hard to pivot off of that. Anybody else at the center position that you're getting to in a meaningful way?
Not really. I mean, we talked about Siakam already. He has power forward and center eligibility. Thad Young, Drew Eubanks, Karl-Anthony Towns, Anthony Davis. Those are the guys I have more than 10% of. If we're talking about over on FanDuel, just because of the price point on him, I think Chimezie Metu is not a bad punt play to look at. Metu's only $3,600 over on FanDuel and is currently projected for 6% ownership. I don't mind him as somebody to get to as a low-owned option. And same goes for Kelly Olynyk. This is FanDuel specific, power forward and center eligible, only 4,500. He's a really good fantasy producer. And we're also taking Cade Cunningham out of the mix. I don't know exactly how many minutes we're going to get from Olynyk. Maybe they get a couple extra out of him, but he's another guy who I think is a potential contrarian option with some upside. FanDuel specific, cheap price. This is by a pretty wide margin, I think, the cheapest salary that Olynyk's had all year. It was 5,100 last game. Before getting hurt, he was over 6,000. So I think that's somebody to look at as a contrarian option as well, but just FanDuel specific, not guys I'm getting to on DK.
All right, love it. Two more super chats here. Aaron Bowen, $4.99. DK Cash, favorite raw points play above 9,100 today.
Let's see. So above 9,100.
Mm-hmm.
I might have Siakam project for more fantasy points than anybody on the slate, actually.
Oh, baby. That's
Let's
fun.
See.
I have
No, Karl-Anthony Towns.
Yep, me too. That's my guy. I am all aboard the cat wagon here today. JR 499, Anthony Edwards or Westbrook, FanDuel cash last man in.
For cash,
FanDuel
cash.
Edwards. Okay. Bill W, $2. Metu or Tucker, then White, R. Jackson, or Trent. Oh, baby. Don't have a site.
Okay. Metu over Tucker.
Okay.
And then Derek White.
Yep. That is the correct answer for that one. Let's see. Anything else you need the people to know here? We've got 2 minutes.
Yeah, you missed Bean Clover Gaming Super Chat.
Oh, well, just give me a second. It didn't come up in this one.
It was before Bill W's.
Wait, what?
Why is Jordan playing with his nipples? Read the super
My
chat.
wife left me for Jackson last night. What am I? Do I amuse you? Am I a clown?
Yeah. So, by the way, was there anything more disappointing than the game? Did you end up playing a lot of Jackson last night?
Yeah, I was about at the field, I was very upset with myself because Ryan flat out said, don't play him. There's going to be lots of news later on. And then that's exactly what happened. And he played Taylor and I didn't. I thought Ryan was going to win the small GDP of another country yesterday. I don't know what happened that he didn't, but man, that guy is sharp. And, obviously I don't expect injuries. I don't expect stuff like that, but I think I played pretty poorly yesterday to just be around the field on Jackson. I feel like I should have been making a stand one way or the other.
Yeah, I had him I had him projected for like mid 40s fantasy points yesterday, which was a really hard number for me to get off of because I was looking at the matchup against the Magic and I thought, they're going to need to play bigger lineups to compete against Wendell Carter Jr. and Mo Bamba. And then I know somebody had said to me that they knew that Jackson was going to play less minutes last night. It's like, okay, well, I didn't project him to play 20 seconds, but it's when I have somebody projected to score like 44 fantasy points or whatever it was yesterday, when they're 5,400, it's going to be hard for me to get away from that kind of chalk.
Agreed. Hard to get away from. He was just projecting out phenomenally well. For me, it did make some sense to wait on some of the news, but yet I kind of just straddled the line there. Desonmu, Levine, DeRozan, Green, Vooch, exactly what I'd expected out of the Bulls here. Awesome. We're at Lock, guys. Smash that like button if you enjoyed the work that Greg Ehrenberg is putting in over here. We're not to the weekend yet. We've got a lot of money to win here on Thursday. We're going to be back at it again tomorrow. He'll be on the deeper dive. I'll be on the live before lock with Terry. Looking forward to it. Talking about the slate tomorrow. I think it's just going to be a lot of NBA here for the next couple of weeks here outside of the Super Bowl, and we'll have you covered with content for that too. But I'm looking forward to hanging with you guys here again tomorrow. But let's get to the Yahoo portion of the program here. They're the sponsor of the NBA Live Before Lock show, and if you guys haven't had a chance to play over there, there's a quick reason why you should be signing up right now. Free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, $90 value, everything we offer behind the paywall just by checking out their product. You deposit $10 or more, play in any of the paid contests whatsoever, and you'll get that free month. Simple as that. Pretty easy. And lowest rate you're going to find in the entire industry. I talked about this $12 Thursday Night Baller did not fill 275 entries short of filling. That makes it a little less than 10% management fee. My God, it is just incredible to be playing over there compared to the main sites where everything fills out. You have 16.5% rake. If you're looking for one site and one site only to be playing on, make it Yahoo for that reason. And now we'll give you the tools and ammunition you need to be successful over there for one free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum just by depositing $10, playing any of those paid contests. But let's get to it. Obviously, we have some ownership we can react to as we get going as well. I'm going to be very fascinated to see where Thaddeus Young and these other Spurs came in on the site. I'm a Magruder 5.7%.
We're not going to find out for an hour and a half.
What are you talking about?
The Spurs game.
Locked now. That just locked.
No, the game. The start time got moved to 8:30.
What? No, it locked at 7 p.m. Eastern time. They moved it from 8:30 p.m. Eastern time to 7 p.m. Eastern time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, never mind.
We're going to know all of that rostership. The C is silent. Starting lineup for the Hawks. This is good confirmation. Trey Young, Kevin Huerter, we've got DeAndre Hunter, Collins, Capella. Normal suspects. Nice to see happening there. Just feels good to have all the Trey Young in the universe. But it was inclement weather in San Antonio that moved that game time up from 8:30 p.m. Eastern time to 4 p.m. Well, 4 p.m.
By the way,
time,
I was confused.
I
was confused the entire day. I thought the start time got moved back. I was sitting here waiting for the I was waiting for some goofy Spurs starting lineup news to come out.
I could just make fun of you for the next 27 minutes, but I'm going to be the bigger person and just not do it.
Listen, it's not that hard to be a bigger person than me. I'm a little fella, so it's
I'm going to go on and talk basketball. I don't know what time the game is going to lock at. Oh, don't worry about me. I'm great.
I'm making fun of myself. No, but so I legitimately got confused by that announcement earlier. I thought the game got moved back, not moved up.
Thanks for choosing us to come and get your basketball advice on the daily basis. We really, really appreciate you. We're always prepared.
Weather information,
always here
too.
Giving you the best information we possibly can. Promise you, it's not just shows of me getting trolled, but also Greg Ehrenberg giving you shit information. Absolute shite. Cool. Justin Alperto, favorite shooting guard for FanDuel.
By the way,
5,600.
Do you buy the Spurs starting lineup?
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm going to put this game on. I'm ready first.
So we did. Banks comes out on the floor. I will not talk. I will literally just be silent for the next 26 minutes. So you can cheer for that. You can cheer for Drew Eubanks to hit the floor, but I have 100% Thaddeus Young on every site.
Did you get any exposure to Drew Eubanks?
Yeah, I did get some, but I played them together.
Okay, so yeah, that wouldn't be the end of the world.
They could go 26-22 and Drew Eubanks could still get there, but I was just not willing to not play 100% of my guy. And once again, he was my number one GPP target before any of this news happened, but obviously they moved the start time of the game. I think that's what really screwed me because I was planning on coming on this show and being like, nobody's talking about Thad Young. And then what happened? Everybody's talking about Thad Young, so it didn't matter. We've got JR 499 Curry or Trey Young for cash.
For cash, it's Curry. For tournaments, Trey Young.
That is the correct answer. All right, my friends, let's take a look at the Yahoo slate here. And we're going to be sweating this starting lineup. It's so weird to say that that's like a sweat, but it kind of is.
DK ownership. Thad Young is 58%. Drew Eubanks is 18%.
Like Drew Eubanks at 18 too. Hard not to like both of them at their current ownerships. Like Thaddeus Young, I could have made 1,000 lineups and I probably would have gotten to him in almost every single one. Because if you just make him 26 minutes at 1.1, it's impossible not to get him in like legitimately every lineup.
The only reason I disagree with you is because there's so much value plays today I wanted to get to.
Yeah, but they're all on his own team. And, you know, the center position, you're getting a discount off of Eubanks. You're saving $1,000 on FanDuel. You know, he's not the flat min over on DK. Drew Eubanks is 3,300. You know, if he beats him straight out, so be it. And maybe that would be kind of the reason. Same thing as yesterday. But, you know, obviously both of them being playable, I think, in the same lineup just because of how cheap they are. I see what you're saying. But like for me, it's a guy that I've never like been abashed to just play way, way above the field. And I just have a good, I've just had a good history.
I'm overweight. I'm overweight to the field.
Mm-hmm.
He's my most rostered player today. Just not 100%.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. All right. We've got Yahoo. I'm looking at the guard position from today. And obviously we had Steph Curry, $45 up there. Chris Paul and Devin Booker priced up to 40 and 39. Fred VanVleet, 37. But the guy that just really stands out on Yahoo, and he has constantly, it feels like since the beginning of time, is Russell Westbrook. He is $35. I think that is by far my favorite site to be playing him. On FanDuel, he's very popular. I think there's a lot of ways to get different, but with strict pricing, with strict sites like this, where you can only play the player at their position, there's no multi-positional eligibility. I think this is where I wanted to get all of my exposure to Russell Westbrook. Would you agree?
Yes, with the caveat of that I like Fred VanVleet at point guard more than Russell Westbrook.
Beautiful. Give me that spiel.
He's going to play a crap ton of minutes, and he's a better fantasy producer than Russell Westbrook at this point in his career, and he's a fraction of the ownership. So right now, in terms of projected ownership, we have Fred VanVleet 11.6, Russell Westbrook at 38.6. It's a massive gap. In terms of actual projection, I have Fred VanVleet actually a fantasy point higher than Russell Westbrook. And then you also consider the massive gap in the amount of the field's getting to him. I'd rather play Fred VanVleet.
Yeah, Trey Jones just locked. Obviously, he was going to be a very popular play at $11, always was. He's in that lineup that I've got. Lonnie Walker, $11, makes some sense even at that number. Derek White was up to $25 already. I think, on this site specifically, I was looking to just kind of find some stars and scrubs. Lots of $10, $11 players available on this slate. $13 if you wanted to try to make Corey Joseph a thing. I did not go that route, but who are some of your other favorite plays from the guard position on Yahoo for today, Greg?
So I think we should talk about Lonnie Walker here because he looks way different to me on Yahoo than he does on FanDuel or DK. The reason being he's only $11. And so when we're looking at some of these min price options to roster from the Spurs, he just wasn't that on FanDuel and DK. FanDuel, he's over 5,000. DK, he's over 4,000. But he's $1 above the min on Yahoo, which is a way different situation. So I look at him as one of the very live and very viable Yahoo Spurs value plays when it wasn't quite as much the case on FanDuel or DraftKings.
Man, so much Vanderbilt chat. Like, what is going on with the Vanderbilt? He's nearly a fantasy point per minute guy. And yeah, he's had these games where he erupts for lots of usage, but he's not a high usage basketball player. He's not going to be the guy who scores a lot of 18-point games going forward. I don't know what that is all about. And he's 5,500 over on DK. You guys are crazy. You crazy.
And he's $21 over on Yahoo.
I mean, that is just no thank you for me. Let's see. Rest of the guard position. Derek White, 25. I said that's a little bit more expensive. Not really landing in the mid-range. Davion Mitchell, $12. I talked about it during the show. That is my favorite tournament play to kind of be looking at. He's been the guy I've played in a lot of these Yahoo lineups. And if you need a pivot, you put him in the utility. Obviously center has some spend up options we still want to get to, but there's Serge Ibaka in the late night hammer at $12. There's Terrence Mann at $12. We have lots of places that we could possibly make that money go to work. Nicholas Batum, $11. Lots of places where you could turn pretty easily a guy in Davion Mitchell into somebody else. So what do you think about Davion Mitchell as a tournament play for Yahoo?
Hard for me to like him if De'Aaron Fox is going to be in, and I assume that De'Aaron Fox is playing. So just to know for me, it's one of these situations we kind of have to take a guess on whether he's going to be in or not. There's only 2 games available in that late time slot because, as we all know, the Spurs Heat game, the start time got moved to 7. So that drastically changes what we have in terms of swappability. So there's this big gap where there's 2.5 hours in between games, and it's just not something I'm looking to get to. For me personally, I think Fox plays today. I think Mitchell goes back to the bench and kind of plays the limited minutes role.
I missed a Kermit meme opportunity. Just, me sipping my tea.
There it is.
Ehrenberg,
do the voice now.
Crap up. Kermit Frog here. I can't really help myself.
Oh my God. It's Puppet Lindquist.
Oh my God. Don't. I miss Puppet. I know my wife she loved the Puppet Lindquist bit. She loved it. Nobody knows what we're talking about.
No, I think there's people who've been here for more than a year who know what we're talking about. If your wife left you for a puppet version of yourself, what would be your instant reaction when she told you?
So at the forward position, there's lots of spend ups that we can kind of get to. We can kind of discuss a lot of things that have already locked, but I know we just got that starting lineup, which makes this a perfect segue considering, there's other forwards besides, I know Pascal Siakam is at the center position. You got to play him $42 on Yahoo. Yikes, that's a big price tag skew, but we've got Jimmy Butler, who's starting there, $45, too expensive for me. But lots of guys from this Toronto side playing big minutes. They're kind of great little tournament targets, and we have Van Fleet, Gary Trent, Anunoby, Barnes, Siakam. No surprises there. Do any of them intrigue you over on Yahoo today, Greg?
You said Van Vliet, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, he started.
Yeah. Fred Van. I love Fred Van Fleet on Yahoo today, mainly because, like I said before, just that pivot off of all the ownership on Russell Westbrook. They're similarly priced, and I have Fred Van Fleet projected higher. I think he's a really, really strong option.
Butterho Jenkins, why does Eric always ignore Greg's questions? Because they're not really questions more than they are digs.
No, that was a question.
Or like subtle jabs or being
no. It's something I was actually inquiring about, and I was curious to know what you'll do when it happens.
When it happens?
When, whatever, two are the same.
I mean, there is not enough therapy. I think people probably already think, Eric, he's up, he's down. I never know what we're gonna get. But like, legitimately, get off my lawn, kids.
Imagine walking into a therapy session. The doctor goes, what issues are you facing? And it's, well, doc, my wife left me for a puppet version of myself.
Just closes the door. And he's like, well, I've seen it all. Yeah, you need to end it now, buddy. There's just like reverse therapy. There's like nothing you could say other than that. 4-0 Miami, like you would expect. Probably not going to be very good. Keldon Johnson out there chucking early, over 2 from the field. At least we did get the starting lineup we were expecting, and Jimmy Butler just fouled Derek White, which even up until the game that it started, very, very strong point by Obi-Wan. Thad lasted longer than 22 seconds. If nothing else, we got even if Thad, well, actually, he could get hurt and end up with negative fantasy points. That is still on the table. But yeah, we're 2.5 minutes into the game. The Spurs have scored 0 points as a team, which is, generally suboptimal. This is not the best showing for the Spurs so far. Oh, there it is. Derek White knocks down a 3. Is that assisted by Keldon? I didn't see it through the pass, but either way, there we go. It took Trey 3 minutes. But Trey Jones, baby.
All right.
Trey
Spurs
Jones
are on the board.
Trey Jones. Back Jones didn't want me. Oh, it's fine. Super chats. History Buff gave $1.99. And then he decided, I'm going to give you another $1.99 because I didn't actually ask you the question, even though you could have asked the question. But we appreciate you once again asking the question. Thaddeus Young rebound. He's on the board. I'm happy. Beat Jackson yesterday. History Buff. I was heavy to Hartenstein. Zubats. Q-Tag. Thoughts? On FanDuel, he was already getting some attention earlier in the day. I don't know where that ended up landing with him because he was 4,100. He's all the way down to 3.5%. I'm saying he was like double digits earlier. Obviously, the Spurs news impacted that a lot. But what do you think about Hartenstein in the event that you have no Zubats out there tonight?
Yeah, so here's the issue. I thought Hartenstein was going to start last game, which I think a lot of people assume that when Zubats got ruled out. And then what happens instead? We get a start from the corpse of Serge Ibaka, and he played well. So, I mean, to me, it's weird because Serge Ibaka's minutes as of late, here's where he went. He went from being out of the rotation, DNP coach's decision, to playing 6 minutes, to starting and playing 22 minutes. And he put up 34 fantasy points in that start. It's hard to project him that well in only 22 minutes. 22 minutes out of Serge Ibaka, we're generally looking around 20 fantasy points. But I think the most likely scenario is Hartenstein and Ibaka each play 24 minutes.
Keldon Johnson, stop shooting the basketball. Nobody rostered you. We don't care about you, Keldon Johnson.
A lot of people rostered Keldon Johnson.
Get off the phone.
A lot of people rostered Keldon Johnson.
Get off the...
What is Keldon Johnson's ownership?
I don't know, but Trey Young, bucket. Let's go. Or Trey Jones. Trey Young. That game hasn't started. But Trey Jones, just saw him make up another bucket there. Back then, people didn't want him. Now he's hot. People all on him. Yeah, for all the Mike Jones people who didn't get that. Before the ice was in my grill, before I made my major deal, these people wouldn't give a damn if I was here. Shoot.
Did you see the San Francisco 49ers coach? There was a offensive coordinator. I forget his name. The one who looks like Ben Raza. So he's doing an interview after a game, and there's a reporter named Mike Jones, and they go, Mike Jones from whatever outlet. He goes, who? And nobody in the room got the reference. Everybody was confused, and it is a hilarious clip.
Yeah, he is so nerdy. It's uncomfortable, but it's also very endearing. Obviously, you are the offensive coordinator for San Francisco. You've got some interesting stuff to get that team to the NFC Championship game with the amount of issues they had offensively at points in time this season. Pretty baller. So he can do whatever he wants. Plus, he stayed flossing in that candy paint, rolling dank, sipping drink, 84 swing, tearing up the lane.
How many times did you try to text 281-330-8004 as a kid? A lot. I actually think that's the first thing I did when I got my first cell phone was try to text Mike Jones, just see what happens. I got no response.
It's very unfortunate. Kind of like your mom when she was busy upstairs.
Oh yeah. Well, that bed was always broken. Thankfully there was some good handymen to help fix it. Very squeaky.
This show's ridiculous. They pay us to do this for 30 minutes. Forward spot, top end. We talked about a lot of those guys. Scotty Barnes.
We missed
Scotty Barnes is the guy I was going for. Yeah, I'll get to the super chat here. I just wanted to get back to this. My first wife left me for a puppet. That explains some things. Bean Clover Gaming. That
I've worse news for him.
Mm.
His second wife has left him for me. First wife left him for a puppet, though. But I'm sorry you had to find out this way. Bean Clover Gaming.
See, history buff, that's great. 8675309. That was another one where I called it, and it just never, it always went ding, ding, ding. You never got through. Jenny, who can I turn to?
I don't get that reference.
You really don't?
Nope.
Jenny, I got your number. You've never
Do you know
heard
that one,
song?
Jordan? Yeah.
Oh my God. This is the first time I felt like an old man on this show.
I've no clue what that reference is.
Jenny,
maybe
can
Emac
I
knows.
Turn to, oh my God. Emac wrote that song more than likely. It's probably
No. Emac has no discernible talents. There's no chance. Was it a good song?
Yeah, it was great. It was lovely. It was like an 80s bopper. There's an acoustic version that's pretty good too, but let's keep it going. I want to get back to Yahoo. Also, 9-8, Miami is up. We've got Hari Bam getting subbed out here. Lonnie Walker coming in for Trey Jones 5 minutes into the game. Drew Eubanks in for Thaddeus Young 5 minutes into the game. I'm nervous. We'll see when he comes back. It's hard not to be. It's hard not to be with here. But Derek White off to a great start, 6 points, 1 rebound. We've got 6 points for Bam here now getting subbed out, it looks like. So forward spot. Anybody else that you're really kind of targeting for those? 11 minutes left to go. We've got 2 games locking in this next window. Chicago, Toronto, Phoenix, Atlanta. I said Scotty Barnes was kind of the guy I was alluding to that I really liked over on Yahoo at his tag. But anybody else that you feel like in games coming up here that you want to get to at forward on Yahoo?
So Scotty Barnes, I do think makes a whole lot of sense at $25. That's a lot different than the price tag he has on FanDuel or DK. So to me, he's a pretty good piece of chalk. I'm trying to find some guys to talk about that we didn't bring up when it came to FanDuel or DraftKings. $26 Andrew Wiggins, I think, is more appealing looking on Yahoo than he is on FanDuel or DraftKings. But for all the shit that myself and everybody else was giving Andrew Wiggins when he's voted as an all-star starter, his fantasy production has been pretty damn good since he became named an all-star starter. 40-plus fantasy points in 3 consecutive games, and his salary is pretty reasonable, $26. Favorable matchup against the Sacramento Kings. Obviously, there's blowout risk here, but a $26 price tag, I think Wiggins is pretty appealing.
Yeah, I think he's really appealing on the DraftKings slate too. He was one of my 5 tournament plays, guys. 6,700. It's an overpay to be contrarian, but he's coming in right around 10% for that. I like getting over that. I think he makes a good shot out there. Everybody's going to Steph Curry. Probably going to play him in some Steph Curry-less lineups. Plus, yes, the total is baked into this projection. Obviously you're projecting the pace there already, but there's nothing else to be said. They have the highest Vegas implied total on the slate here. At 119.5 now it's gone up to. So I'm looking at getting to some Golden State guys, just like everybody else with Steph Curry and Clay, but like Andrew Wiggins, don't sleep on him. Been very good, as you said, since that All-Star news. I think that kind of does it here for the forward position. Let's head to center here, where Drew Eubanks is just going nuts in the early going here. He's got 2 points, 2 rebounds. I just saw him block Dwayne Dedman. So that's a thing that's happening now too. Let's see, 2, 2, and 1 in legitimately 30 seconds. That's fun. And a bucket, another bucket.
You know what's by the way, one of my favorite nicknames that anybody's ever come up with. Well, number 1 overall favorite is Gary Payton, the second being the Mitten. Another really good one, Josh Lloyd, who I used to work with at Basketball Monster. He calls Dwayne Dedman the Undertaker because last name Dedman, and I find that to be hilarious. I just think the Undertaker whenever I see Dedman.
It's a great story, Greg. You should tell it to everybody.
You don't like that nickname?
Tell it again. No, it's a great nickname, but Deadman, it's the dead man. Deadman. I guess I can kind of hear it a little bit phonetically. Just doesn't sound like dead man to me. It sounds like Deadman. Did they just name all the other all-stars? Eric, how have you taken 34 sips out of my mug? Because I'm taking my time. That's what you do with espresso when you're trying to get some energy after a long day at work. Here we go. What are those all-star starters? Can we get Jordan Klein in here? Can we please get some Jordan Klein? Producer Cam, his hair looks too good not to put it. You just get a fresh cut, Jordan Klein. Yeah, he did. Look at it. He's like, yeah, I did. Show the people some fresh cut. And why don't you list off the All-Star starters?
There's no
from
list.
They're
tweeting it out like one by one.
Okay. Join us.
Okay,
Producer
I'm
camp
here.
season. Come on in.
Do you want Devin Booker, Luka Doncic,
Oh, Drew Eubanks just ran over Kyle Lowry's fat ass.
Rudy Gobert, Draymond Green is an all-star,
Okay.
Donovan Mitchell, Chris Paul, Karl Anthony Towns, Jimmy Butler, Darius Garland, James Harden, Zach LaVine, and that's all they've announced so far.
All right. Thank you so much to Jordan Klein for stopping by. The Wizard of Klein. Always nice to get a sneak behind the curtain there. God, that is a fresh fade.
That was kind of hard for me to follow. Who do we think got snubbed from that list of guys?
Find it here. I'm going to find it. NBA. Let me just go to the Twitter account. NBA. We'll find it while we're going. So yeah, I want to know the snubs. Everybody just wants to talk about the snubs. Oh God, there's 48,000 tweets
by the way,
from NBA.com.
I'm gonna read the super chats we got while you look up for that. Bean Clover Gaming back with another super chat. Can Grant hold on to the damn ball? It seems like a better question for him than it is for us, isn't it? Let's see what's going on in that game. Does he have a bunch of turnovers or something?
I don't know, but always nice to see that Kyle Lowry back and being angry, first tech right off the bat. So they're up 14. Spurs
right. I told you he got his fat ass run over by Drew Eubanks. And now he's upset about it. By the way, it's Jeremy Grant, 2 turnovers. It's not like he's turned the ball over like crazy.
Hero snub.
Real life points.
Tyler Hero. Was Tyler Hero like an MVP? He came out of the gate so
MVP?
high. Yeah, no, or sorry, all-star conversation. All-star.
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so either, but I was going to say
he's
Jared Allen might be a snub.
So it depends who made it over him. Evan Mobley, I think, has had a better year than Jared Allen, though. Like Evan Mobley's all defensive player, first or second
Evan
team.
Mobley.
All right, let's see.
Great call on Rosen Tringali. Yeah, I did not play them. You're very welcome. I also
Malcolm Revamp. What is the ownership for late slate? So in terms of projected, I'll pull that up.
Austin Eckroad, y'all. How we doing? Represent. Smash that like button for my boy Eckgoat. Eckgoat off to a nice start there on the old PGA Tour.com. Looking forward to it. Jimmy Butler tech now. Man, they are angry in San Antonio.
Hey. They can't keep up with this Spurs team. They're down by 5 points in the first quarter, and they're not happy about it. Let's see. Keldon Johnson. Is that Keldon Johnson shooting I can't tell who it is shooting the free throws.
Trey Jones.
Trey Jones. All right.
Who?
All right. I want to answer that super chat, so I'm just going and pulling up the ownership for the late slate. All right. Ownership for the night slate, and also. Malcolm Revamp, are you asking for the FanDuel or DK late slate?
That's a great question.
Whatever. I'll just read off. Here are the I'll give top 5 for FanDuel and DraftKings and kind of cover both bases.
Love it.
For DK, number 1, Steph Curry, 61%. Number 2, Russell Westbrook, 58%. Anthony Davis, 55%. Harrison Barnes, 43%. Andrew Wiggins, 43% over on FanDuel. Anthony Davis, 92%. That's a big number. Steph Curry, 84%. That's also a big number. Russell Westbrook, 78%. Tyrese Halliburton, 63%. Harrison Barnes, 55%.
Love it. Look at that. Free ownership. We have NBA rankings. That is what's free today. You want to be checking that out. You also want to check out Yahoo. We got 3 minutes left on our show. I do not want to get over with the show without you guys. Anybody who has not had a chance to check out their product heads over and does so right now. Sign up using promo code Awesemo. Deposit $10 or more. Play in any paid contest, and you will get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. That is 1 free month of everything behind the paywall, not just NBA, but Super Bowl. You're going to want that ownership. You're going to have NHL. I don't know if they're going to have contests for the All-Star game. I'm not even sure. What's up?
LaMelo didn't make the All-Star game.
Oh, shit. There you go. Snub City. But
Although I don't know who I would have put him over.
He was out for a while. Everybody was out for a while. This year.
This is so I usually really care about games played for awards and All-Star and stuff like that. I don't even know how to quantify that for this year though. Like there's been so many guys that have missed so many games that I think it kind of makes it hard to know what to do with that for sure. I don't think Jason Tatum should have made the All-Star game this year. Nor do I think Chris Middleton should have made the All-Star game this year.
You know who's leading the slate in scoring right now, Greg?
Drew Eubanks?
Jared Vanderbilt, 7 points, 2 rebounds, 2 steals.
Let's see who else.
15
Anthony
plus
Edwards.
over on FanDuel. Anthony Edwards, 11.4. Beautiful.
Nice.
Patrick Beverley on DK. That's going to be all right for me there. He's off to a decent enough start, 8.7 on FanDuel as well. Interesting that the Spurs are up 17-14 here, and I don't know if anybody's doing well really yet whatsoever. Josh Primo out there playing decent minutes, 2 points and a rebound now. Just got going. I'm nervous. I'm not feeling very good about this. Juancho Hernan-Gomez just hit the floor too. That's problematic. They're going to play like 10 dudes. If this Kukoc individual shows up, I'm going to be upset. Like keep it at 9, if that.
And by the way, for somebody who said Luka didn't make it, Luka made it. The guards in the West, the reserves are Booker, Luka, Mitchell, and Paul. He's in there.
All right, we got 19-17 Heat just went on a run. They're up 2. That's keeping track of that. Let's jump on over to Minnesota and Detroit, where Towns 2 points, 3 assists, and a rebound. You know what? Decent enough start. Now he's at the free throw line here. We just had a Kelly Olynyk foul. Sadiq Bey, 6 points, 2 assists, 1 rebound. He was decent enough there, obviously, with no Cade Cunningham. Definitely going to have some 3-point attempts for him. Noted 3-point shooter there. Just got a rebound as well. 6, 2, and 2. Decent start for him, guys. But once again, go play Yahoo. This has been a lot of fun, per usual. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Eric, what happened with Tringali? He played horrible, and it was great because I had 0%. And, you know, he's just, I don't ever know. He's such a high variance dude. It seems like more so, and people think of him as consistent, and I just don't. I just don't believe that he's that good. But Justin Rose, I believe, is very good. And I thought that this didn't necessarily set up as a great week. Him playing a lot of weeks in a row, too. As you get older on the PGA Tour, that's something that can kind of, you know, be more of a grind than it should be for a guy like that. But he's been in decent form. But Trincali is a born loser. I don't know about that, but I'm not going to go after his family. I know his wife's from Minneapolis, but, you know, decent enough Midwest roots now at this point in time. But I'm not cheering against him as a person, but as a golfer, yes.
How do you know where his wife is? How do you know where his wife is from?
Because I know a lot about the PGA Tour.
Okay. I mean, it's just like that's just really specific information to know. Like, I love the NBA. I watch basketball games all the time. We finish here. I'm going to watch more basketball. I don't know what most of the players' wives look like or where they're from.
You can fact check me if you really want to, but like I'm 99.9% certain that I saw a tournament like the 3M like 2 years ago or something where he was playing, and it was just like some soundbite where he had a lot of people following him because his wife was from the area. That's just the random stuff I remember. Good times. We're at the end of the show, everybody. This was an absolute blast. Greg, Ehrenberg, any final words for the people?
Yeah, a little disappointed that you thought that The Undertaker, me saying that was a good nickname, you didn't find that interesting, but you found where Cameron Tringal's wife is from is interesting. But whatever floats your boat.
She's a PGA Tour wife. She's kind of hot. All right, guys, that was it. That was our show. Absolutely enjoyed it. Thank you to Jordan Klein behind the virtual glass. Thank you so much to our sponsor, Yahoo. He's Greg Ehrenberg. He's really funny. I'm Eric Lindquist. I think I am. Probably not. We'll see you guys later.